Complete Batman Beyond cartoon. Lore explored. There's something about Gotham City that keeps drawing us back, no matter how many versions we encounter. Today, we're diving into a futuristic take on Gotham, set roughly 40 years after the original Batman timeline. This time, it's a young Terry McGinnis stepping into the role of the Dark Knight, guided by an aging Bruce Wayne. From 1999 to 2001, Batman Beyond took us through 3 gripping seasons under the direction of Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, and Alan Burnett, the OG team behind Batman the Animated Series. So, whether you're a long-time fan or just getting started, we're about to anatomize it season by season and bring you the complete lore of Batman Beyond. Season 1, 1999. Episode 1, Rebirth, Part 1. In a dimly lit airplane hangar just outside Gotham City, a group of kidnappers huddles around a small TV, watching a news report. The screen flickers with the latest update. Derek Powers' attempted takeover of Wayne Enterprises has crumbled, thwarted by Bruce Wayne's efforts. The news also rattles about the kidnapping of a certain starlet, Bunny Vreeland. Imagine the shock. The same woman is here, tied up by the very group of kidnappers who've already secured a hefty $5 million ransom, but with the ultimate plan of killing their hostage. Suddenly, as the doom of the starlet is approaching, Batman appears, clad in a sleek new suit, moving swiftly through the hangar. Most of the criminals fall easily to him, their ambush collapsing under his skill. But as he moves to untie Bunny, a sharp pain grips his chest. His movements falter. He's not the same as he once was. One of the thugs seizes the moment, striking Batman from behind with a wrench. Desperation flashes across Batman's face. He reaches for the nearest weapon, a handgun. The sight of it stuns his attacker, who stumbles back in shock before bolting. For a moment, the gun feels foreign in Batman's grip. Then the weight of it hits him. He's crossed a line. Having a bout of self-revulsion, our beloved Batman drops the weapon, staring at it in disbelief. Back at the Batcave, Bruce Wayne, his hair grey, his body weary, places the Batsuit in storage. His reflection in the glass feels like a stranger. With a deep breath, Bruce turns off the lights, the Batcave fading into darkness. Part 1 begins. The scene begins 20 years later, and Gotham City is almost unrecognisable, its towering skyline and streets pulsing with change. On a busy afternoon, a teenager dressed like a clown climbs into a public elevator, causing a scene. Just as the situation escalates, another teen, Terry McGinnis, steps in and quickly diffuses the trouble. Meanwhile, at the McGinnis home, Terry's father, Warren, is working late. He receives a frantic message from his co-worker, Harry Tully, who sounds scared and desperate. Meeting up in secret, Harry slips Warren a mysterious disc just before being dragged away by Mr. Fix, a hulking enforcer for the powerful businessman Derek Powers. Warren is summoned to Powers' office the next day to clear up any misunderstanding. Powers claims Tully had an accident but assures Warren he's fine. Then, Powers asks if Harry Tully gave him anything, to which Warren immediately lies, saying no. Later that night, Warren reviews the disc's contents, and his face darkens with shock and fear. Terry, oblivious to his father's distress, announces that he's heading out, but Warren, still processing the dangerous information on the disc, grounds him. Frustrated and defiant, Terry storms out, heading to a nightclub to meet his girlfriend, Dana Tan. Their night is cut short when a gang of clowns known as the Jokers storm the club, causing chaos. Terry jumps into the fray, fighting them off, but when more gang members arrive, he's forced to flee on a stolen motorcycle. The gang pursues him, leading to a narrow, desolate road on the outskirts of Gotham. As Terry rounds a corner, an old man suddenly appears in his path. Swerving to avoid him, Terry wipes out, and the Jokers close in. The old man, who turns out to be none other than our aging Bruce Wayne, demands the gang leave. Interestingly, the way Bruce looks here, he was supposed to look more old in the initial version. When they refuse an attack, Terry and Bruce fight them off, though the battle leaves Bruce struggling with his heart condition. Terry helps the weakened Bruce back to his home and gives him his medication, but Bruce soon falls asleep. As Terry waits and paces, he hears wings fluttering. A bat is trapped in an old clock. In freeing it, Terry stumbles upon a hidden passageway that leads to the Batcave. It's then that he realizes the truth. Bruce Wayne was Gotham's legendary protector, Batman. A shocking revelation that is tragically cut short when Wayne wakes up and furiously throws Terry out. The boy then finally returns home. He finds the house in ruins. "Ha ha ha" is scrawled in graffiti across the walls. The crushing news of his father's murder and the Joker's group involvement is highly on the air. After the funeral, Terry is consumed with grief and guilt. At his mother's house, he tearfully laments his anger and regrets not staying with his father that night. While going through his belongings, he finds the disc his father had hidden. Viewing the files, he realizes his father's murder wasn't the random act of violence the police believe, but something far more sinister. Our teen hero is determined to uncover the truth. He returns to Wayne Manor, pleading for Bruce's help through the gate intercom. The episode ends with Bruce coldly ignoring Terry, but Terry, desperate and frustrated, accuses him of being a coward who's given up. Bruce eventually opens the gate, letting Terry in. Episode 2, Rebirth, Part 2. Terry stared at the Batsuit, his mind racing as Bruce silently reviewed the data on the disc. The truth was sickening. Derek Powers, using Wayne Powers, was manufacturing a deadly mutagenic nerve gas capable of obliterating healthy cells. As Bruce's fists clenched in anger over the revelation, Terry's frustration boiled over. He knew the police wouldn't act. Powers' connections made sure of that. Bruce had to step in, but when Terry voiced his plea, Bruce's response was an absolute no. Crushed and disappointed, Terry stormed out, leaving the Batcave with the weight of Bruce's refusal heavy on his shoulders. But his thoughts barely had time to settle when a limo screeched to a halt beside him. Derek Powers and his hulking enforcer, Mr. Fix, stepped out, demanding the disc back. For a moment, Terry complied, handing it over, but with a quick move, he dropped the disc, using the chaos to escape with his life. Later, back at Wayne Manor, Bruce sat in the quiet of his living room, eyes flicking over the evening news. Ace's sudden barking snapped him out of his thoughts. Finding the dog tied up, Bruce's concern deepened. He freed Ace and followed him down to the Batcave, where the truth of the missing Batsuit brought him to only one conclusion. Terry, now suited up as Batman, soared warily towards Wayne Powers' tower. He had to find proof, something concrete to expose Powers. Hovering outside a window, he overheard Powers and his associate, Egan's. Powers proudly displayed footage of the nerve gas's lethality, images of their victim, Tully, twisted and disfigured from the accident. Egan seemed impressed, and Powers confirmed the gas would ship out that night. Before Terry could react, security spotted him. They swarmed, attacking with brute force. Terry fought back, powered by the suit's tech. Then, through the comm, Bruce's voice cut in, sharp and commanding. He demanded Terry return the suit, to which Terry's petulant teenage self refused. Bruce, angered by the defiance, flipped a switch, paralyzing the suit. The guards wasted no time, beating him down while he barely managed to fend off the guards and escape. Over the comm, Bruce coldly advised Terry of a hidden escape route he had built into the tower. Terry was determined to stop the shipment of gas. He was not going to let Powers get away with it. Bruce, notwithstanding his adamancy, saw a shade of his loss in Terry and agreed to relent for this once. Terry, now fully committed, flew to the hover docks, where Powers and Fix oversaw the gas's loading. More security guards descended, but Terry fought through, relentlessly. As the hovercraft prepared for takeoff, Terry tossed a gas canister at him, who ironically shot at the canister, unleashing the deadly nerve gas on himself. Ignoring Powers' fate, Terry launched after the hovercraft, determined to stop Fix. This battle, though, is reminiscent of Bruce Wayne's brush-off with Mr. Freeze, who would likely appear again in the series. After a brutal struggle, Terry, now truly calling himself the new Batman, overcame Fix. The hovercraft spiraled out of control, plunging into the ocean, burying its deadly cargo and Fix beneath the waves. The next morning, Bruce arrived at Terry's house with an offer for Terry to work as a part-time assistant. Meanwhile, Derek Powers was undergoing intense radiation treatment to save his life, but the gas, combined with the radiation, mutated his body. His skin turned translucent, revealing a glowing, skeletal figure underneath, heralding a new storm. Episode 3, Blackout, A lone truck rumbles up to the quiet Foxteca building, its headlights piercing through the stillness. Everything seems eerily calm, but then, from the shadows, a strange black blob slithers out, slipping into the building unnoticed. It makes its way to the control panels and suddenly, explosions ripple through the facility, sending flames and chaos into the night. As the fire department rushes to the scene, the black blob slips into one of the fire trucks and disappears into the night. The next morning, Bruce Wayne arrives at Wayne Powers, meeting with Derek Powers. Powers greets him with a polished smile, quickly hiding the files spread across his desk. Bruce reassures Powers that he's not here to take back full control of Wayne Powers, but warns him to keep his hands off Foxteca, the company owned by Lucius Fox Jr. Later that evening, Terry McGinnis is at a high school game with Dana, trying to enjoy a normal night. But the bat signal doesn't wait. Terry's pager buzzes, forcing him to leave the game early. Then, the scene takes us to Terry suiting up as Batman, and his suit, though a high-tech version of the traditional one, interestingly, doesn't feature a cape to give him a futuristic cyberpunk look. While Bruce is analysing a sample of Inque's strange material, he explains to Terry that Foxteca and Wayne Powers are in a heated competition to win a government contract to build a new lunar station. Terry deduces that the sabotage is clearly an attempt to swing the deal in Powers' favour. At the Foxteca site, Inque strikes again. Batman intervenes, but she's a slippery and formidable opponent. With her abilities, she overpowers him easily and makes her escape. Back at the cave, Bruce explains that Inque is the product of a mutagenic experiment gone wrong, now a saboteur for hire, feared in Gotham's underworld. Down at Gotham's docks, Inque is destroying Pier 18. Batman arrives just in time, but she's relentless, though Terry turns out quite a perceptive boy. As he makes a key observation, Inque hates water. Even then, she beats him again, leaving him bruised and frustrated. As it turns out, she, Inque, is one of Terry's most formidable enemies after Powers, obviously. The next morning, Powers in his sleek limousine gets to know that despite the chaos, Foxteca's satellite project is still on track. Inque suddenly appears, confessing that a man in a black and red suit has been interfering with her work. Powers knows exactly who she means. Anger flares, causing his false skin to flake, revealing the illness beneath. He orders Inque to take care of the problem, for good. That night, Batman inspects another sabotaged Foxteca building. He doesn't realise Inque has already infiltrated his Batmobile, but Bruce notices something's off. The Batmobile is heavier than it should be. Before they can react, Inque bursts out, attacking Batman against the cave walls. Bruce attacks her with a hose, spraying her with freezing water. Inque tries to flee, aiming for the cave's exit, but Bruce seals her in with an electrified steel door. Batman struggles but eventually gains the upper hand, firing a gun at her that freezes her body, and it's shattering into pieces on the cave floor. The episode comes to an end with a scene showing Commissioner Barbara Gordon, who was once the Batgirl in Batman, the animated series. Her return shows the progression of her character and adds depth to the show's connection with its predecessor. Barbara is receiving an unexpected call from Bruce. She's already pieced together that there's a new Batman in town. Bruce urges her to look out of her window when she spots a gift for her, pieces of ink bagged in plastic. Episode 4, Gollum. Willie Watt was just another awkward, nerdy kid at Hamilton Hill High, blending into the background, nursing a shy crush on the popular and beautiful Blade Summer. One day, he finally worked up the nerve to approach her, but his moment was shattered when Nelson Nash, the school bully, and Blade's on-again, off-again boyfriend, rolled up in his shiny car. Without hesitation, Nelson shoved Willie aside like he didn't even matter, a move that stung more than just physically. Willie tried to stand up for himself, but Nelson only laughed, ready to beat him down for daring to push back. Before things could escalate, Terry stepped in, diffusing the situation. Later that day, Willie visited his father, Frank, at a construction site where he worked as a foreman. Frank didn't mince words when Willie told him what had happened, telling him that he did not want to raise a wuss and that Willie should push back and hit Nelson where it hurts. That night, as Batman tested the latest stealth upgrades on his suit during a basketball game, a police siren wailed in the distance and Batman sprang into action, following the sound. He then overheard something called Gollum had been stolen. As the police assures Frank that the giant Golem could not have gone far, we see that it was now being driven by none other than his son, Willie Watt, who had stolen it in a moment of desperation. The Golem arrives at the mall just when Blade and Nelson are leaving. Nelson, true to form, fled the moment danger approached, leaving Blade behind in his wake. The Golem crushed Nelson's car like it was nothing. However, before Gollum could do more damage, Batman appeared. Willie, furious that his moment of triumph was being interrupted, used the Golem to attack Batman, but he duped Willie into smashing the Golem into power cables, causing a surge that backfired in Willie's mind too. Even after the Golem shut down and locked away, Willie could feel the energy coursing through him. He realized, with a mixture of fear and excitement, that he still had a connection to the machine. The next day at school, Blade, now disgusted with Nelson for abandoning her, decided to make Nelson jealous by asking Willie to the dance. However, on the night of the dance, Blade realizes how ridiculous her plan is. Nelson took advantage of the situation and pulled Willie away at the docks, mocking him, pushing him around, and finally shoving him into the cold, dark water. Wet and humiliated, Willie's anger boiled over. Willie then summoned the Golem that wreaked havoc at the party. Nelson was his first target, but Batman arrived just in time, saving the bully from a grim fate. However, Willie wasn't done. Fueled by a lifetime of pent-up frustration and newfound power, he turned the Golem on Batman, and later his father. Here it portrays the dark, mature tone that was a hallmark of Batman, the animated series. Though, after a brief confrontation, Batman managed to destroy the Golem. In the aftermath, Willie was sent to juvenile hall for 3 years, but now Willie had a secret power. The episode ended with Willie's dark, twisted grin creeping across his face. He is going to have a comeback in the later part of this Batman Beyond series, showcasing his newfound powers.
Yeah, you feel it, don't you?
Episode 5, Meltdown. This episode opens at the docks of Gotham City, where Batman tests the murky water and finds it contaminated with dangerous radiation. Soon, a group of men in lead suits arrives, unloading canisters of radioactive waste into a barge. Slipping into stealth mode, Batman silently takes down the crew with ease. After defeating them, he interrogates their leader and uncovers Derek Powers' involvement through the man's cell phone. Meanwhile, in his laboratory, Derek Powers expresses frustration that his synthetic skin no longer holds, but his doctors can offer no solution. That's when Dr. Stephanie Lake presents a radical idea: clone him a new body and transfer his consciousness into it. Powers agrees but insists the procedure first be tested on someone else, Mr. Freeze, whose disembodied, immortal head has been kept alive for years. Dr. Lake proceeds with the experiment, successfully giving Mr. Freeze a new body. Although everything seems to go smoothly, Bruce Wayne remains skeptical. He sends Terry McGinnis to investigate, suspecting that something darker may be at play. At first, Terry discovers that Mr. Freeze appears to be a changed man, genuinely trying to reform. This perception is shaken, however, when a sniper attempts to kill Freeze, claiming revenge for his family, who had perished in one of Freeze's past crimes. Rather than retaliate, Freeze spares the sniper, offering to make amends for his past sins. Terry is convinced Freeze has turned over a new leaf, but Bruce warns him to stay cautious. His suspicions are validated when Freeze, now in his new body, begins to feel an unnatural heat spreading through him. Dr. Lake reports the issue to Powers and speculates that Freeze's DNA contains a mnemonic agent, triggering his body to revert to its old state. In a cold, calculated move, she and Powers decide to betray Freeze, sealing him inside a cell and cranking up the heat to knock him out. But Freeze escapes, furious and bent on vengeance. Learning of Freeze's escape, Bruce instructs Terry to keep an eye on Wayne Powers Industries, believing the former villain will seek retribution. Freeze soon reappears, donning a new, more powerful suit with enhanced armor and freeze weapons built into his gauntlets. He storms the Wayne Powers complex, cornering Powers and Dr. Lake. With little hesitation, Freeze traps them both in icy coffins. However, Powers is far from defeated. Using his radioactive abilities, Powers melts the ice and sheds his artificial skin, revealing his alter form as Blight. In the generator room, Freeze, still seeking vengeance, sets the system to overload. Batman intervenes, pleading with Freeze to stop, but Freeze, consumed by his anger, refuses. In the ensuing battle, Freeze traps Batman in ice, but Blight soon enters the fray, bombarding Freeze with radiation. Batman, now free, attacks Blight, even though he does not recognize Blight's true identity. It is strange considering Blight and Powers have the same clothes on. As the fight rages on, Blight gains the upper hand and is about to finish Batman off when Freeze intervenes, saving the new Dark Knight. Batman manages to stop the generator from overloading, but the room begins to collapse under the weight of the ice freeze generated. Immortally wounded by Blight's radiation, Freeze blocks Batman's attempt to rescue him as the complex explodes. In the aftermath, Terry mourns Freeze's death and concedes that Bruce was right about Freeze still being a villain. However, Bruce admits that Terry wasn't entirely wrong. There was still good left in Victor Fries. On that note, this happens to be Freeze's very final appearance in the DCAU.
Finish it now!
Episode 6, Heroes. A group of high-tech thieves equipped with rocket packs has stolen a priceless computer chip, only to be confronted by Batman. The Dark Knight manages to stop one of the thieves, but is struck down by another. As he struggles to recover, a woman made entirely of blue mist appears, gliding through the air. She surrounds one of the thieves with a layer of frost, causing him to plummet to the ground. Meanwhile, a towering creature made of molten lava grabs a chunk of concrete and hurls it, knocking two more thieves from the sky. The falling thieves are then captured by a flat, stretchy man, whose body seems to defy physics. The trio has a name: Magma, Freon, and the 2D man, once scientists, Dr. Mike Morgan, Mary Michaels, and Stuart Lowe, but now superpowered beings transformed by a particle fusion experiment gone wrong. Together, they have become government-sponsored heroes, known as the Terrific Trio. As Gotham has another crime in store, the police face a hostage situation involving a councilman's wife and daughter. The trio intervenes, swiftly saving the day. Back at their base, Trio Tower, Magma voices his frustration, lamenting how he's become a monster, unable to even hold his fiancée, Freon. Their friend, Dr. Howard Hodges, tries to reassure them, promising they'll find a cure in time. But something darker is at play. Dr. Hodges examines their DNA and discovers that it's dangerously unstable. Before he can share the news, General Norman is informed, and soon Magma steals the cube containing the data. Batman, sensing something amiss, investigates and follows Magma back to Trio Tower. There, hidden in the shadows, Batman watches the trio examine the scans. The results are grim, but Magma sees something even worse in the data. Before he can explain, General Norman's forces launch an attack on the tower. Confused and caught in the crossfire, Batman barely escapes alongside the trio. Later, General Norman tells a devastated Dr. Hodges that the trio has perished. He reminds Hodges that their deteriorating mental state would have soon made them dangerously unstable anyway. But the trio isn't dead. They confront Hodges, furious. They accuse him of knowing about the risks of the experiment all along. Desperate, Hodges confesses that he orchestrated the accident, fueled by jealousy of Mike. He never meant for Mary to be harmed, nor for any of them to end up in their mutated forms. Now, however, it's too late. The trio has been pushed beyond reason, and they vow to seek vengeance. Batman arrives just in time to take control of the situation. Though the ensuing fight between Magma and Batman does not hint whether he got out alive or not, keeping the possibility of him being alive very viable, the episode ends with Batman confronting a devastated Dr. Hodges, asking if this was the outcome he wanted. Hodges, broken, insists he was their friend. The answer seemed to Batman as superficial as Hodges mourning the fate of the so-called friends he betrayed. Episode 7, Shriek. The episode begins with Derek Powers watching a presentation by acoustician Walter Shreve. Without warning, the sound of a speeding locomotive fills the air and a blinding headlight rushes toward Powers. He is shell-shocked for sure, but just as quickly, the illusion vanishes. Shreve explains it was only a demonstration of his sound technology. Powers initially was less than impressed about this underwhelming display, to say the least, but begins to listen as Shreve reveals his true goal: to revolutionize revolutionize the construction industry with his sonic suit. Powers sees another, more sinister potential and suggests Shriek use his technology to eliminate Bruce Wayne. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is addressing the Wayne Powers board, outraged over Powers' plan to demolish Crime Alley, now part of Gotham's historical district. He demands a stockholders' meeting to vote on the proposal, forcing Powers to reluctantly agree. Afterward, Bruce gives Terry McGinnis to Crime Alley, explaining why preserving it matters so much. It's where his parents were murdered, much to Terry's confusion. As they talk, Bruce's dog, Ace, becomes agitated. While Terry checks on the dog, Bruce continues exploring, eventually arriving at the old Gotham Police Department headquarters. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and Bruce immediately knows it's not natural. Shriek, now in his sonic suit, launches an attack targeting Bruce. Batman arrives, attempting to draw Shriek's attention, but the villain is solely focused on Bruce. In the chaos, Batman manages to damage Shriek's right-hand sound generator, forcing him to eject it. Batman grabs Bruce, and they narrowly escape. Bruce is taken to the hospital, where he's a grumpy, impatient patient, insisting he doesn't need to stay overnight. At Wayne Powers, Powers is enraged to learn Bruce survived. That night, Bruce begins hearing voices urging him to jump from his hospital window. When he tries to leave, the orderlies sedate him. Meanwhile, Terry investigates on his own and traces the damaged sound generator back to Shriek Sound Laboratories. Disguised as a pizza delivery boy, Terry sneaks into Shriek's lab. When he mentions sound vibrations, Shriek is understandably apprehensive and attacks Terry, who narrowly escapes. Rushing back to the hospital, Terry discovers Bruce has been transferred to the psych ward on Powers' orders. Shriek, Powers nicknamed Shriek of course, sets another trap for Bruce, but Batman finds a tiny radio hidden in Bruce's bandages, responsible for the voices. Terry tracks Shriek to a car factory, where they battle once again. Shriek uses his suit to cancel all sound, plunging the world into eerie silence. However, Ace, unaffected by the silence, charges in to help. Batman damages Shriek's suit again, and Shriek collapses, realizing he has gone deaf. It is interesting to notice that Batman Beyond introduced a host of new villains with futuristic or tech-based powers, such as Shriek. These villains reflected the high-tech world of Neo-Gotham, and many of them had personal ties to either the OG Batman or his protege. The episode concludes with Terry asking Bruce how he knew the voices weren't just in his head. Bruce replies that the most fatal duplication was the voices calling him by his name, something he never does. Episode 8, Dead Man's Hand. The episode begins at sea. A lone sailor is rudely pushed aside by a massive yacht. The snobby passengers mock him, but soon, a bizarre sight distracts them. A group dressed as playing cards, King, Queen, Jack, Ace, and 10, riding flying cards. The group attacks, robbing the passengers of their valuables. Batman notices the commotion and contacts Bruce Wayne, who recognizes the villains but doesn't have time to explain. Batman arrives on the ship and disrupts the robbery, but Queen wrecks the ship and demands Batman allow her family to escape, or the passengers will die. Reluctantly, Batman lets them go. Then, on the call, Bruce tells Terry McGinnis that they need to discuss the Royal Flush Gang, but Terry has another appointment and says they'll talk later. That night, Terry meets his girlfriend Dana at a nightclub, trying to apologize for being late, but she's distant, frustrated by his constant absences. She believes he only cares about his job. They argue, and Terry suggests that if she can't handle his responsibilities, they should end things. Dana admits that she's already let go of their relationship. Hurt, Terry leaves. While the series focuses on Terry's new life as Batman, it also gives attention to his relationships, especially with his girlfriend Dana, adding a level of complexity and depth to his character. Outside, a blonde girl intercepts Terry. She had seen the argument and introduced herself as Melanie Walker. As they walk, they bond over their shared struggles. Terry's job takes up all his time, and Melanie's family moves constantly, making it hard to form lasting relationships. Before parting, Melanie surprises Terry with a kiss and agrees to meet him for a date the next night under the big clock. Later, Terry returns to the Batcave. Bruce tries to talk about Dana, but Terry reveals they broke up. Bruce says that the problem will solve itself and tells Terry about the Royal Flush Gang. The scene cuts to the Royal Flush Gang, a family of elite criminals. and their head asking about the whereabouts of 10. It's revealed that she's, yes Melanie, actually is the 10 of the Royal Flush Gang, and her family is plotting another heist. That night, both Terry and Melanie are distracted, checking the time during their respective missions. As Batman battles the Royal Flush Gang at a museum, he hesitates when it comes to fighting 10. The gang escapes, but Melanie is conflicted, torn between her criminal family and her feelings for Terry. That night was also their date. Terry walks in late and waits for Melanie, and she arrives just in time, though she is very conflicted and she reveals that her family is moving again soon. They decide to live in the moment, but both are haunted by their secrets. Melanie's father, King, pressures her to stay loyal to the family, and eventually, Melanie decides she can't abandon them. She calls Terry, breaking things off without explaining the real reason. Heartbroken, Terry traces the call and discovers the truth. Melanie is 10. Batman confronts the Royal Flush Gang, but this time, the encounter is personal. Despite his feelings for Melanie, he fights the gang. When the King is cornered, Melanie as 10 appears at the scene, and while Batman aka Terry hopes she won't side with the gang, she reluctantly tries to help the King but is struck down by a sudden intervention. However, as she is falling, Batman catches her and saves her life. In the end, the Royal Flush Gang is arrested, including Melanie. As Terry watches her being taken away, Bruce arrives to offer comfort. They walk together, Bruce sharing stories of his own complicated love life, as Terry reflects on the cost of his double life. Episode 9: The Winning Edge. The episode opens in Gotham City, where a group of Jokers gather around an arms dealer behind what appears to be an ice cream truck. The Jokers gang is inspired by the legacy of the Joker. They're a group of street criminals who idolize the Clown Prince of Crime, reflecting how the mythos of Gotham's villains lingers into the future. But as they admire the merchandise, Batman arrives and foils the deal. Batman has success in his new after-school job, but the long nights are wearing on him. The next day at school, Terry dozes off in class. His teacher, frustrated, hands him a note to take home. Dana tries to comfort Terry and invites him to a game that night. Initially, he refuses, but Dana insists a little more. During the game, the opposing team scores easily, frustrating the coach. As play resumes, one player, Mason, discreetly slaps a patch on his arm, instantly bulking up. His new strength allows him to check an opponent so hard that he sends him crashing through the court wall, almost hitting Terry and Dana. The referee protests, but the coach praises Mason. That night, Batman stops a robbery at an electronics store. Among the thieves is Mason, and as they flee, one of the teens shouts his name. Batman corners Mason, who uses 3 patches, growing in size and overpowering Batman. Mason and his friends escape. The next morning, Chelsea, Mason's girlfriend, confronts Mason, worried about his appearance and realizing he's using slappers. Mason, angry and defensive, snaps at her, leading to their breakup. Later, Mason buys more slappers from a shady dealer in a black car. He uses one, and the effects are immediate. Batman starts to investigate Mason's locker and finds a packet of slappers. However, Coach Krieger catches him and attacks. After a brief scuffle, Batman escapes with the slappers in hand. At home, Terry's mum confronts him about his tardiness and the note from his teacher. When Terry tries to explain, the packet of slappers accidentally falls from his bag. Misunderstanding the situation, his mum grounds him, despite his protests. Terry brings one of the slappers to Bruce, who analyzes it and discovers it contains venom, a dangerous drug once used by Bruce's old foe, Bane. Batman tracks down Bane, who now lives in isolation, a shadow of his former self, dependent on venom to survive. Bane's former attendant, Jackson Chapel, has taken over the production of venom and is now selling it in the form of slappers. Back at school, Mason and his teammates struggle without their stash of slappers. Desperate, they try to get more. Batman, however, is watching and intervenes in the next drop. Mason, weakened and desperate, is easily captured. Batman follows the supplier's car to a hidden factory, where he confronts Chapel. After applying multiple slappers, Chapel grows monstrously strong, but Batman manages to blind him in a chemical explosion. The overdose leaves Chapel incapacitated, his mind shattered. Back home, Bruce presents Terry's mother with evidence proving Terry wasn't using slappers, much to her relief. The episode ends with them sitting together. The news announces the arrest of Mason and his friends, and Coach Krieger's suspension playing on. Terry, exhausted, falls asleep on the couch, his rest imperative. Episode 10, Spellbound. The episode begins with a teen girl, Chelsea, returning home after a date with her boyfriend. When he offers to walk her to the door, she laughs it off, saying nothing ever happens around their quiet neighborhood. But as she approaches her house, a strange gust of wind blows through the trees, and she notices a man in a bizarre costume standing nearby. The strange man invites her for an adventure, and as if in a trance, she is unable to look away. Suddenly, her surroundings shift, and she finds herself wandering through a dense jungle. She enters an ancient temple, picks up a small idol, and follows the man to a pool of lava where she drops the statue. This entire dream sequence is a subtle nod to Raiders of the Lost Ark. However, it is very visible that what Chelsea was doing was walking into her house and then picking up a valuable statue from her father's study and dropping it into the river behind their home. When her father confronts her, she snaps out of the trance, confused and shaken, though the strange man is getting away with the very statue Chelsea dropped. The next day, Terry talks with his friend about a bizarre incident when they spot Commissioner Barbara Gordon nearby. Terry watches as she has a conversation with Ira Billings, the psychologist at his school. Billings dismisses Chelsea's claims of a mystery man as a cry for attention. Barbara seems to accept this, but Terry remains suspicious, even as Bruce Wayne advises him to leave it alone. That night, the strange man strikes again, targeting Mr. Deakins, a manager at an auction house. Under the influence of the eye, Deakins knocks out a security guard and locks himself inside the building. In his mind, he's in a war zone, carrying a wounded, arms-in-hand comrade to safety, when truly all he was doing was dragging a priceless dress to the rooftop. Interestingly, his dream sequence has tones of the Vietnam War in it. Batman arrives, but Deakins, lost in his delusion, attacks, mistaking him for an enemy soldier. After a struggle, Batman knocks Deakins out, breaking the spell. Deakins, like Chelsea, is confused and unaware of what he's done. Terry attends a friend's wedding, where the bride is struck by the magic eye, seeing herself surrounded by giant insects. Panicked, she tears off her jewelry and jumps from a hotel balcony. Batman saves her just in time, but Spellbinder escapes with the stolen jewels. In pursuit, Terry is hit by the eye's power and sees himself diving from a tall waterfall, unaware that he's really falling toward the street. Bruce snaps him out of the illusion, but the suit is damaged in the process. The following day, Billings expresses concern for Terry's mental state, suggesting he might be overwhelmed by personal stress. That night, again under the eye's influence, Terry begins stealing valuables from Wayne Manor, believing he's on a game show. Bruce stops him just in time, leading them to uncover the truth. Spellbinder is Billings. Using his role as a therapist, he targeted the rich families he felt had wronged him. Batman confronts Spellbinder, but is attacked by a horde of illusory zombies. Through Bruce's guidance, Terry sees through the illusion just in time to stop himself from running off a cliff. The episode ends with Barbara Gordon arriving to arrest Billings, and though she doesn't say it, Terry senses she knows his truth. This hints at a potential arc that would be leveraged in later seasons. Former Batgirl's disapproval of OG Batman's decision to let Terry take up the mantle of Batman. Episode 11. Disappearing Inc. This episode opens with Aaron Herbst, a disgruntled employee at Gotham Cryogenics. He stumbles across something extraordinary, Inque, trapped in a block of ice. Frustrated after being denied a raise, he vents his problems aloud to the frozen figure, unaware that security cameras are watching. Just for luck, he kisses the ice block, amused by his audacity. Moments later, Aaron is called into his boss's office, where he's told the cameras have caught his strange conversations with Inque. He's fired on the spot. Enraged, Aaron decides to exact revenge by cutting off the power to her containment cell, unknowingly setting her free. At the Batcave, Terry McGinnis admires an exosuit Bruce once built to compensate for his waning strength. Bruce explains the suit's power came at a cost. It put too much strain on his heart, forcing him to retire it. An alarm suddenly blares, alerting them to Inque's escape. Terry suits up, taking Mr. Freeze's cold gun, remembering how useful it was against her before. Inque takes hostages at the cryogenics plant, but Terry notices something odd. A police officer's black coat doesn't look quite right. Deducing it's Inque in disguise, he attacks, but things quickly go wrong. The police open fire on both Batman and Inque, and she destroys the cold gun before escaping. However, In later seasons, the gun appears again on the Batcave display, hinting that Bruce reconstructed it or just simply kept relics of Freeze's guns. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Aaron watches the news and chuckles at the chaos he's caused. Inque appears, surprising him by revealing that she heard all his rants while frozen. Embarrassed but intrigued, Aaron is drawn further into her orbit, agreeing to help her in exchange for a dangerous reward, becoming a shapeshifter like her. The scene shifts to Bruce examining a sample of Inque's bioresidue, discovering her DNA was damaged from the freezing process, making it impossible for her to fully return to human form. They realize she'll need a specialized lab to reverse the effects, and Bruce sends Terry out to track her down. So, as Bruce came to that conclusion, so did Inque, and together with Aaron, they break into a lab to steal the chemicals she needs, and Aaron demands his reward. You would notice, unlike many classic OG Batman villains who are motivated by revenge or personal obsession, the new villains in Batman Beyond often have motivations tied to the futuristic world they inhabit, and Inque's search for a cure is one of them. She promises to mutate him into a shapeshifter, but before she can, Batman arrives. A fierce battle ensues, with Inque gaining the upper hand. She seems to always gain the upper hand when it comes to Batman, doesn't she? However, Batman's resourcefulness saves him. Still, Aaron knocks him out, letting Inque escape. Bruce, now wearing his old exosuit, confronts Inque but is soon overpowered. Inque is moments away from killing him when Aaron, enraged by her betrayal, intervenes, wrapping his unstable body around her in desperation. As Inque struggles, Batman breaks free. Terry shatters the arena's glass ceiling, allowing rain to pour in. Inque, now melting from the water, desperately reaches for the mutagen, but dissolves into the drains before she can save herself. In the aftermath, Aaron, now an invalid, is kept in a glass enclosure, barely able to move or eat. His cheery attendant babbles on about her life, completely unaware she's being monitored to ensure she doesn't follow in Aaron's tragic footsteps.
Drive, repeat, Gotham Park.
Episode 12, A Touch of Curare. The episode opens late at night when Commissioner Barbara Gordon and her husband are strolling through a park, enjoying a rare, quiet moment. Their peace is shattered when a woman, with a bizarre appearance, bursts from the shadows. Wielding daggers and a razor-sharp sword, she attacks without warning. But Barbara moved quickly, though the woman was quicker. Just as things seem dire, Batman arrives, managing to pull Barbara's husband out of harm's way. The woman, now focused on Batman, clashes with him. Amid the chaos, the police arrive and begin firing indiscriminately at both combatants. In the confusion, the blue-painted assassin slips away. Once Terry McGinnis returns to Bruce, he learns from Wayne that the woman is Curare, a deadly assassin from the Society of Assassins. Her scimitar, Bruce explains, is laser-sharpened to a molecular edge, capable of cutting through anything. This shows how crime in Neo-Gotham has evolved from mob bosses and street-level thugs to high-tech corporate villains, rogue scientists, and cyber-enhanced criminals. The shift reflects the futuristic and technological advancements in the series setting. This is understandably terrifying to Terry, who presumes the Commissioner to be the prime target, but Bruce says the true target is her husband Sam. Just then, Barbara Gordon, the former Batgirl, arrives and explains the real reason why Sam is in danger. Her husband would testify against Fyodor Davik, so the man hired the Society to eliminate Sam. Then she briskly asks the former and the current Batman to keep themselves out of her business. However, Bruce is skeptical of the police's ability to protect Sam and keeps a close watch. As expected, Curare strikes, effortlessly neutralizing the guards and entering the house. Terry catches up to her but is trapped in the chaos, allowing Curare to escape. The botched attempt angers Barbara, who confronts Terry, threatening to arrest both him and Bruce if they interfere again. Though she reveals her past with Bruce to Terry, how they were the perfect crime-fighting team, but over time she realizes Bruce would stick to his role, making her walk away from their tryst. On the night of the trial, Sam is transported via train, with Barbara overseeing his protection. Despite Barbara's efforts, Curare intercepts the train and derails it, forcing Barbara and Sam to take refuge in a meat locker. Even there, they're not safe. Curare's sword slices through the steel door with terrifying ease. Just as she prepares to strike the final blow, Batman intervenes once more. Their fight is brutal and relentless, carrying them dangerously close to an active meat grinder. At the last moment, Barbara throws a batarang, disarming Curare and sending her sword into the grinder. Batman subdues Curare, saving Sam and Barbara. In the aftermath, Bruce tells Terry about Davik's conviction, though the undertone of the conversation likes how Curare has escaped. Though Bruce reassures Terry she won't be causing them any strife now, as she has her own troubles to handle. To accentuate the point, the episode ends with Curare speeding out of the city in a stolen police car, her own people hot on her trail. A sword stabs down from above, narrowly missing her, and Curare realizes she's now the target. Episode 13, Ascension. The episode begins at night when Blight is leading a robbery at the Gotham docks, targeting several canisters of polymer. After easily subduing the dock workers, he's interrupted by Batman. A brief clash ensues, with Batman halting the robbery and Blight, in frustration, destroying most of the polymer, something which he desperately needed. In the chaos of their fight, the dock workers become trapped in a fire, forcing Batman to save them, while Blight takes his chances for an escape. Later on, as our teen hero is searching one of Blight's thugs, he finds an ID card from Wayne Powers. This is pretty suspicious from his point of view, and he thought Derek Powers to be involved in the whole Blight business. The scene shifts to Blight's lab, where he fumes over his failed heist. His doctors inform him that his temporary skin will only last 2 more weeks, as his deteriorating condition and temper are unfortunately going berserk. The scene takes us to South America, where Derek's son Paxton is unfazed by protests against his incriminating ways. Paxton is summoned to Gotham, where Derek appoints him as the temporary chairman of Wayne Powers, and informs Paxton about his radioactive condition. Then, at a board meeting, Derek announces Paxton's appointment, despite protests over his son's record. The situation escalates when villagers from Verdeza, where Paxton was handling a branch of Wayne Powers, burst in, decrying the damage Paxton has done to their rivers. Their leader, Mr. Mendez, dumps Powers with dirty water, which understandably makes him lose control. However, his anger is not as overwhelming as the reaction of all the board members, yet, including Bruce, and media when Derek Powers transforms into Blight. Meanwhile, Terry is watching the events unfold, and he finally gets the missing piece of the Blight Powers fiasco. Derek is Blight. He obviously diffuses the situation and saves Bruce. In the aftermath, Bruce traces Derek's condition back to Terry, who accidentally dumped him with the nerve gas. While this amuses Terry, it concerns Bruce, who feels the conflict has become too personal for his taste. It certainly does not faze Terry though. He always believed Powers was a monster in human skin, but now, since his skin is flaking off, ironic, isn't it? The scene now shifts to Paxton Powers, taking control of the full leadership of Wayne Powers in the absence of his father. Even though Derek calls his son, asking him to arrange a safe house, Paxton betrays him, instead calling for medical help. Meanwhile, Batman meets with Paxton, who claims to want to help his father, a lie though, since he is planning to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Batman and his father, with the help of the so-called enraged villager who dumped water on Powers, he shows Batman a device designed to absorb Blight's radiation. In the mission to find Powers, Batman tracks Miss Winston to an abandoned submarine. Realizing the submarine's radiation camouflages Blight, Batman informs Paxton of the location. That night, Batman confronts Blight, admitting part of his vendetta is personal, but refusing to reveal his identity. As Batman engages Blight, Paxton activates the radiation-absorbing machine, intending to kill his father. Though Terry despises Derek for murdering his father, he refuses to let him die. The situation spirals as the machine controls are accidentally destroyed, causing Blight to revive. He then flooded the submarine with radiation, though everyone but Blight escaped. The episode ends with Batman warning Paxton that he made an enemy beyond his powers to control, but the deluded son is assured that his father is gone for good, which Batman is not so sure of. However, the writers did cut out Blight's further involvement in Batman Beyond's other seasons, as the identity reveal took away all the mystery behind Blight's true nature, though in the comic books, his character saw a resurgence to exact revenge. 1999-2000, Episode 1, Splicers. The season opens at Hamilton Hill High as excitement buzzes around Chelsea as she unveils her new look. Literal cat eyes, not the makeup mind you. She is giving her friends business cards from the Chimera Institute, a controversial company that splices human DNA with animal genes. While her classmates are intrigued, Terry feels uneasy, naturally, because nothing good can ever come out of this, but Dana brushes off his concerns. However, when Terry and Bruce watch Dr. Abel Cuvier, who is modelled after actor Conrad Veidt, who starred in many German silent films in the 20th century, reassuring the public that splicing is the future and is obviously reversible, Bruce remains skeptical, just like Terry. The next morning, Terry is jolted awake by a wolf-like creature, only to discover it's his little brother Matt in a Halloween mask. Matt jokes about wanting to get spliced, but their mother quickly shuts down the idea. The scene then shifts to the vertical train ride to school. Terry watches a newscast reporting on DA Sam Young's efforts to stop splicing, citing a rise in violent behaviour. His point is immediately proven when a spliced teen with ram DNA rams into the TV. A second teen, spliced with snake DNA, joins in the chaos. Terry intervenes, and as the security enters the scene, the spliced teens escape, promising that splicing is the future. This made Terry genuinely curious, and he and Dana visited the Chimera Institute. While Dana is being told about the type of gene mutation that would be possible for her, Terry spies the two spliced teens from the chaos, demanding to see Cuvier, who is trying to eliminate opposition to his experiment by ordering his thugs to kill Young. Terry, now Batman, investigates, but is caught by Tigress, one of Cuvier's spliced henchmen. Batman then comes to consciousness to find himself shackled and injected with a powerful dose of unknown DNA. Cuvier boasts that Batman has been spliced with something special. Dazed and partially transformed, Batman barely escapes and rushes to protect Sam from the incoming attack. The scene shifts to Sam's house, where the spliced thugs arrive. Barbara, being the former Batgirl, fights off Tigress, but she and Sam are overpowered. Batman arrives, feral and foaming at the mouth, attacking the thugs with alarming brutality, but saves the day. Realizing he's lost control, Batman flees before he can hurt anyone further. Back at the Batcave, Bruce prepares an antidote for splicing when Terry, now resembling a monstrous bat, attacks. Only Ace, Bruce's loyal dog, saves him long enough to inject Terry with the cure. Once cured, Terry learns what Cuvier spliced him with, a vampirish bat DNA. Now, with Cuvier on the run, Batman uses one of Cuvier's claws to track him down. There, Cuvier injects himself with multiple animal DNAs, transforming into a terrifying true chimera. After a fierce battle, Batman, who is in the end aided by Ace, the loyal dog, causes Cuvier to mutate uncontrollably and fall into an explosive trap, which presumably ends his life. Episode 2, Earthmover. The episode begins with Terry, Dana, and Jackie, who are studying together on a regular evening. Dana teases Terry about multiplying without a calculator, but Jackie, who was supposed to help to find out the accuracy of Terry's calculations, seems distracted. When they ask what's wrong, Jackie admits she's been feeling like someone is trailing her, though she's never had any proof. The conversation turns when they notice that Jackie calls her guardian Bill instead of Dad, which makes everyone pause. However, that cloaks a more imminent danger that they don't realise. Outside, a mysterious figure lurks. Terry spots the stalker and chases after him. The stranger flees, slipping under a fence, but Terry manages to catch up. To his surprise, the figure is nothing a normal human could be. It is incorporeal. After tackling the strange being, it crumbles to dust on the road. Terry takes a sample to Bruce, who determines it's just soil, but warns Terry to keep an eye on Jackie. The scene shifts to Hamilton the next day, where Terry talks to Jackie, suggesting that one of Bill's enemies could be the stalker. Jackie cryptically says Bill isn't her father without elaborating on it. After school, Bill arrives to give Dana and Terry a ride, but as Bill shares his next construction plans, an earthquake hits, causing the ground to crack open and release strange canisters. Suddenly, creatures made of dirt rise up and attack them. Batman fights back, but is baffled to realize the ground is his enemy. As soon as Jackie and Bill escape in their car, the dirt creatures vanish. On the drive back, Jackie bombards Bill with questions he won't answer. Then, in a panic, Bill starts apologizing to some Tony. Batman catches up to them, and Jackie demands true answers. Bill confesses, 10 years ago, he and Tony were working together when Bill, desperate to cut costs, decided to bury toxic waste in a sealed mine. Tony initially was not willing to agree to help, but Bill persuaded him to be his business partner. But when Tony went down to oversee the disposal, an accident resulted in Tony dying from chemical exposure. Bill then decided to take baby Jackie in. However, the story is half told, and Batman explains the latter half. The chemicals integrated Tony with the Earth, turning him into a creature who could control the ground, an Earth mover. Knowing Tony is after him, Bill tries to flee, but the Earth swallows him. Meanwhile, Jackie is also sucked into a massive cave where she finds her biological father, Tony, his body fused with the Earth. They speak briefly, but Tony grows annoyed when he learns that Jackie believes his fate was accidental. Hearing Bill's name sends Tony into a fit. He accuses Bill of betraying him and stealing his daughter. As Tony exacts his revenge, Batman arrives to save Jackie. Tony sends more dirt creatures to stop Batman, but he fights them off with specialized tools. After freeing Bill, Batman tries to escape with Jackie, but a massive boulder blocks their way. In his final moments, Earthmover, torn between vengeance and love for his daughter, uses his powers to destroy the boulder and clear their path. This shows Earthmover's complex thought process, that even if he is a villain, he is not lost completely to the whims of antagonism, a classic trait of many villains in this new futuristic age. As they escape, Earthmover is crushed by his own creations, ending his tortured existence. In the aftermath, Jackie accepts Bill as her new father, realizing that Tony, or what was left of him, was gone long before. Episode 3, Joyride. The episode begins with the Jokers, a chaotic gang from Gotham City, riding out to bring in their newest member, Lee. As they cruise along, a sleek, high-tech flying vehicle zooms overhead, startling them but not slowing them down. Inside the vehicle, its pilots are laughing at the Jokers' antics until Dr. Price, the vehicle's inventor, radios them, her voice tense. She orders them to give up the ship and leave immediately. Meanwhile, the Jokers take Lee to an old mine shaft to swear him in. They slap some clown makeup, setting the stage for his entrance into the gang. Lee, still nervous about what he's gotten himself into, senses something off. Before they can begin the ceremony, the malfunctioning vehicle lands nearby. The Jokers, seeing an opportunity, ambush the pilots, knocking them out and seizing the advanced machine. Excitedly, they start fiddling with the controls, unaware of the danger lurking inside. The scene shifts to a restaurant where the gang is causing trouble. Terry, who was also in the same restaurant, decides to change into Batman to stop them. He is riding out in the Batmobile, but the stolen vehicle is faster and more heavily armed. To make matters worse, Bruce Wayne offers little help beyond a vague command to "so stop it." As it turns out, that's the shortest one-liner from Bruce in the entire series. The Jokers manage to shoot Batman down, but he survives the crash. As they prepare to finish him off, Lee, unsettled by the idea of the entire gang ganging up on one man, starts questioning the ethics of the Jokers. However, before they can act, Batman quickly overpowers them, forcing them back into the stolen vehicle. Angry and desperate, the Jokers turn the stolen weapons on Batman. Just in time, Dr. Price arrives in her own vehicle, pulling Batman to safety. She reveals the terrifying truth: the stolen vehicle is prone to a nuclear explosion at any moment. The scene shifts as they together set off in pursuit of the Jokers. As they catch up, Dr. Price gives Batman a key that will shut down the nuclear reactor. She plays with the Jokers to lure them into the trap so Batman can shut it down, but her vehicle is too damaged in the ensuing clash. Batman, left to chase the Jokers alone, heads to warn the T's, a local gang whose debut in the Batman Beyond series is targeted by the Jokers. After convincing them to evacuate their headquarters, Batman manages to sabotage the Jokers' vehicle, causing it to crash. Inside the wreck, Scab, the gang's leader, remains defiant, ignoring Batman's warnings about the reactor. His arrogance costs him. As the reactor nears critical, Scab is more obsessed with the power the vehicle grants him than the looming danger. Lee, overhearing Scab's betrayal of the gang, finally snaps. Angry by Scab's selfishness, Lee knocks him out and helps Batman shut down the reactor, saving Gotham from a nuclear disaster. As Batman and Lee leave, Lee discards his clown nose, quitting the Jokers for good. The episode ends with the arrogant and bone-headed Scab waking to find himself powerless. He rages in vain as his once unstoppable machine lies dead. Episode 4, Lost Soul. The episode begins with a flashback scene of Robert Vance, the late owner of a tech company, who had digitized his mind into a computer program, generally a recipe for disaster, before his death from an incurable brain disorder. His plan was to safeguard the company's future by acting as an advisor to its future leaders. The scene shifts to decades later, when Vance's grandson, Bobby, reboots the program. When Vance realizes Bobby isn't recognized by the system, Bobby explains that his father, Vance's son, had passed away, leaving Bobby as the company's owner and sole heir. Bobby naturally is overwhelmed by the responsibility, but Vance reassures him and urges him to put the program online. Meanwhile, Terry and his girlfriend Dana are enjoying a rare moment of romance on the rooftop of a skyscraper when the elevator they board begins erratically rising and falling. Terry soon realizes that something is out of order and he rushes to Bruce Wayne for help. Bruce explains that Vance's program is behind the disturbances, having infiltrated the city's network and is likely pursuing a hidden agenda. He sends Terry, now Batman, to shut it down. At the power plant, Batman tries to cut the program off by disabling the city's power grid. However, the program thwarts Batman's efforts. Despite sneaking into the control room, Batman is hit by a laser blast. Believing the crisis is over, Batman reports back to Bruce, only to discover the real trouble has just begun. As Batman tries to stop a gang of thieves, his suit starts malfunctioning. The suit no longer responds to his commands, and communications with Bruce are severed. Vance's voice suddenly emerges, having uploaded himself into the suit through the earlier laser blast. This means that Vance now has control of Batman. Bruce, realizing something is wrong, activates the suit's kill switch, just like he did when back in Season 1's Rebirth Part 2 episode, preventing Terry from meeting a worse fate. The scene shifts to the Batcave, where Bruce prepares to reprogram the suit. But when the suit is left alone for a while, it mysteriously activates itself and escapes. Determined to stop Vance's rogue program, Terry dons Nightwing's mask and Bruce's old utility belt. He tracks the suit to Vance Enterprises, where Vance has sedated Bobby, intending to transfer his consciousness into Bobby's body, erasing his grandson's mind. Talk about family drama. During the process, Vance briefly loses control of his arm in an electromagnetic field, giving Terry the insight he needs. Terry then confronts Vance, but his physical attacks are ineffective against the Batsuit. Terry hurls his utility belt at Vance, disabling the suit's stealth mode. In the ensuing fight, Terry is outmatched, but he cleverly jams a rod into the suit and connects it to a power outlet, overloading the suit and erasing Vance's program. In the aftermath, Bobby sells the company. The episode ends with Bruce reprogramming the suit, and Terry, hoping for a break, asks for time off. Bruce, though, ever adamant, denies it with a clever quip.
Who do you think's gonna come to help you?
Me.
Episode 5, Hidden Agenda. The episode begins with a businessman running to catch a train, just managing to board. His relief quickly turns to fear when he sees a gang of jokers are also travelling with him. Their leader, who calls himself Terminal, unleashes a set of razor-sharp gag teeth that tear into the man's clothes. One thing is to be noted, that the Joker's gang is further developed in this season, often serving as a reflection of the chaos left behind by Bruce Wayne's original nemesis, the Joker. Just as it seems hopeless, Batman arrives and saves the man. However, the businessman is still panicked and stumbles toward the door and falls out of the train, but Batman saves him in the nick of time. Later, one of the Jokers cracks a joke, but Terminal, in no mood for humour, behaves rashly, shocking everyone with his viciousness. The scene then shifts to the next day, at Hamilton Hill High School, where the results of a test called the GAT are posted. Maxine Max Gibson tops the list with a perfect score, causing a buzz about her being the probable valedictorian. Her friend Terry McGinnis, however, had to abandon his test midway, one of many times his double life as Batman has interfered, though in this episode, Bruce Wayne is significantly absent. Max plays down her achievement, but the second highest scorer, Carter Wilson, isn't as calm. At home, Carter's mother belittles his near-perfect score because apparently to her, nothing is as impressive as the perfect first. After she leaves, Carter, furious, applies makeup. Imagine the shock. He is terminal, and he sets his sights on taking down Max. That night, the Joker's vandalized and tampered with the GAT results. Terminal tries to erase Max's academic records, but is blocked. Enraged, he smashes her image on the computer screen. The next day, Max, Terry, and their friend Dana find the Joker's graffiti at school. Terry suspects that the vandalism was targeted at someone specific, leading Max to realize she's the target. She uses her skills to hoping to identify the culprit's true name. Later, the Jokers return, this time to attack Max directly. Batman chases them down, but Terminal sneaks into the school where Max is working. He reprograms the cleaning robots to spray acid at her. Batman arrives just in time, saving Max from the deadly trap. The following morning, Max's clever identification program narrows down 6 possible candidates for Batman's identity, with Terry on the list. She becomes suspicious of him. However, she is also determined, so she demands a meeting with him. Terry, genuinely concerned about his Batman identity, agrees to meet her. However, on the night of the meeting, Terminal and his Jokers corner Max. She assumes Terminal is Terry, but when Carter, actual Terminal, laughs it off, amused, she is forced to realize her mistake. At that moment though, Batman arrives at the scene and a fight breaks out. In the chaos, Max knocks over a massive fountain ball and Batman hurls Terminal into the water. As the makeup washes away, Terminal is revealed to be Carter Wilson. Later at school, Max tells Terry she's figured out his secret identity, and Terry is quite concerned about what she plans to do. However, he had nothing to worry about as Max promises to keep his secret, even offering to help when needed, though with just one condition: Terry is not allowed to address her as Robin. So, Terry simply calls her Alfred.
You wanna fight, Dreg? Let's go.
Cool!
Episode 6, Bloodsport. The episode opens in a hotel as a man books a penthouse suite. As he gazes out over the city, a mosquito lands on his arm and draws blood. Irritated, the man deftly fires a dart from a blowgun, killing it instantly. Meanwhile, Batman is performing his daily duty in some part of Gotham City. However, his dual life as Terry McGinnis pulls at him. He is still a teenage boy who needs to run errands for his mother and save the day simultaneously. Terry grumbles but agrees. However, by morning, he's forgotten the task and faces his mother's exasperation. The scene shifts, and the man from the hotel, known as Stalker, is seen covering himself in ink, painting animal symbols on his skin. One, notably, is the Batman symbol. With his ceremony complete, he brandishes a retractable spear and vanishes into the city. He goes to the Casemore Tribal Arts Gallery, where he forcefully enters, causing the security alarms to buzz off. Batman responds, arriving on the scene. However, discreetly, the Stalker watches his new prey, Batman, then launches an attack with his blowgun. Batman dodges, but Stalker is relentless, though at some point he does overwhelm his opponent. The latter simply throws a gas grenade at Batman, knocking him visionless. Once the dust settles, the Stalker is nowhere to be seen anymore. The scene shifts and Terry's personal life continues to unravel. Late for his responsibilities again, his mother hands him Matt, his younger brother, to feed him dinner. They decide to go to Cheesy Dan's. At the restaurant, Terry's friend Max joins them, but as Terry notices Stalker watching from afar, he leaves Matt with Max and bolts into the city. Stalker stalks Terry, while Bruce informs him that his foe is a hunter obsessed with tracking the most dangerous game. Presently, it just happens to be Batman. This makes Terry desperate to shake his pursuer off. He plays a clever ruse and switches jackets with another stranger, allowing him a brief respite to escape. But when he returns to Cheesy Dan's, he finds his brother missing, clearly ensnared by the Stalker to get Batman's attention. The scene takes us to Stalker's jungle-like penthouse, where Matt is caged. Stalker explains his origin. Once an arrogant poacher, he was nearly killed by a Black Panther, leaving him with a broken spine. A painful surgery replaced his spine with artificial enhancements, giving him superior strength and reflexes. He then took revenge on the very same panther, But his victory over the Panther felt hollow, leaving him unsatisfied. Now, he seeks to conquer Batman, whom he sees as immortal and infallible. Soon enough, Batman arrives at the scene. A chaotic fight ensues between the Stalker and him. Though Stalker captures him briefly, Batman escapes and lures Stalker into a trap, damaging his artificial spine. You will notice that Terry is becoming more comfortable in the Batman role, showcasing more confidence and skill in dealing with his enemies through traps and quick thinking. Disoriented, Stalker hallucinates, seeing Batman as the Panther that had once nearly killed him. In a panic, Stalker leaps onto a nearby train track, where he is struck by an oncoming train. The episode ends with Matt being freed and back home. He deftly and energetically recounts the adventure to their mother, who listens indulgently without believing him, of course. For the little boy, Batman is the sole hero, but Terry, totally boring older brother. Episode 7, Once Burned. The episode begins in Gotham City, where a group of criminals plays poker. Tensions rise when one of the players grows paranoid, claiming he hears something outside. Annoyed but suspicious, they decide to check, but they are swiftly taken down by a shadowy figure. 10. Back at the table, the game continues, until 10 dramatically tosses an explosive card onto the table, seizing the pot of cash amidst the chaos. But her escape plan is foiled when her card glider is shot down. At some other part of the city, Batman foils a separate crime. The sound of gunfire from 10's altercation draws Batman's attention. 10, cornered, hides behind an air vent, but Batman arrives and uses a gas bomb to distract the remaining players, allowing both him and 10 to escape. The scene shifts to Terry returning to the Batcave, where he briefs Bruce Wayne about the incident. Bruce recognizes the poker game as the Derby, a high-stakes underground game. Bruce assumes 10's involvement was driven purely by greed, but Terry feels she is desperate. That evening, Terry gets home to find his family away, but finds 10, now Melanie, there waiting for him. The reunion is tense, but she goes on to explain how the Joker's gang has kidnapped her family, wanting ransom from the Derby's loots. She begs for his help, but Terry hesitates and pitches the idea to get the police involved, to which Melanie vehemently refuses, as they might kill her family in spite. They're interrupted when Dana, but Terry cancels, his focus now on Melanie, sharing a passionate kiss. As night falls, Melanie tries to apologize for her past choices, but Terry explains that things have changed. He's with Dana now. Still, he admits he still has feelings for her. Just then, though, Terry's family returns, and Melanie makes a hasty exit, thanking him before disappearing into the night. You will notice that Terry's relationships are developed further in this season, particularly with his girlfriend Dana Tan and his old flame Melanie Walker. Their dynamics add emotional layers to Terry's dual life as both a teenager and Batman. Worried for Melanie, Terry enlists Max's help to find Darby's location. Though Max is curious about his motives, she agrees to help. Terry tracks down 10, who is preparing to rob the Derby again. He tries to talk her out of it, but she refuses, determined to rescue her family. They team up to face the Jokers, but 10 eventually abandons him during the mission. Batman soon learns that the Jokers were never involved, and Melanie learns that her family had set her up, and she is furious at their betrayal. They reveal it was all a test of loyalty, but 10, heartbroken, realizes they never truly loved her. Batman arrives, but a chaotic shootout ensues, ending with both the Royal Flush Gang and the poker players being arrested. 10 slips away into the shadows, once again, this time for good, it seems. The episode ends with Terry, now with Dana, crumpling a letter that 10 gave him the night before. He throws it away, choosing to leave the past behind. Episode 8, Hooked Up. The episode begins with a teenage boy named Donnie standing center stage, drenched in sweat, his guitar hanging loosely at his side. The crowd erupted, chanting his name, their hands reaching out to him, but he barely glanced at them, pushing past them as he made his way to a waiting limo to his 3 girlfriends. He gets in and closes the door, and the roar of the crowd fades to silence. Suddenly, the scene flickered out like candles snuffed, and our teen boy Donnie blinked as the real world crept around him. He was back in a dingy, run-down virtual reality parlor. The booth lights dimmed, and the proprietor gave him the boot because he lacked the money to continue. Desperate, Donnie pleaded, but to no avail. Batman Beyond Season 2 is notable for pushing boundaries in terms of content by dealing with themes of greed and addiction. The scene shifts to the next morning at Terry's school, where he groggily stirs at his desk. His friend Max leaned in, a teasing grin on her face, saying that he could use her help in patrolling, but Terry simply refused to even entertain the idea. Meanwhile, Donnie wandered the streets, disheveled and panhandling, often giving in to violent impulses. That night, on patrol, Terry caught sight of Donnie in the middle of stealing from a woman. As Batman, he stepped in, but to his surprise, Donnie bolted. The game of cat and mouse was a short one though, as Terry is forced to break off for another mission. Donnie, however, went back to the virtual reality parlor and used his stolen money to get another chance to sit at the booths. The proprietor, revealed as Spellbinder, smirked. Nearby, another client, Jesse, slumped forward in the VR booth, unresponsive. Spellbinder asks his henchman to dispose of her outside. Later, at the Batcave, Bruce Wayne reviewed the case and concluded that this is not new, but one of the many recent cases, and he thinks the teenager Donnie might be able to shed some insights. Terry, reluctantly, brought Max along for an investigation. They visited Donnie's parents, only to find a dysfunctional home with an overly abusive father. It was Max who spotted Donnie's cash card, showing repeated charges at a shady arcade. They followed the lead and encountered Donnie and two other VR addicts, who offered Max and Terry a chance to experience VR. While Terry was wary, Max couldn't resist. A fight broke out, and Donnie managed to distract Terry while Max was dragged into the VR world. Inside, Max experienced the perfect life she'd always wanted, a home where her family was whole, supportive, and loving. Reality blurred, and when Terry found her the next night, she was stealing from a car, desperate to get back to that fantasy. Terry coaxed her to go back home, one where her family was not so perfect. And while she seemed to stay put, as soon as Terry turned his attention elsewhere, Max hit him in the head, desperate to return to the VR parlor. When Terry tracked her down, she was already hooked in again. As he tried to pull her out, Spellbinder attacked, overwhelming Terry's mind with illusions. But at the last moment, Max broke free, saving Terry and debunking Spellbinder, who was later taken into custody. The episode ends with Max feeling the guilt of her actions, but Terry reassures her, saying they could be a good team.
Get him!
Episode 9. Rats. The episode begins with the news of giant Manita rats loose in Gotham City. While Max dismisses the idea, Chelsea seems less likely to dismiss it. However, Dana is focused on something else entirely. Terry stood her up again. Terry arrives, apologizing and explaining that Mr. Wayne needed him at the last minute, but Dana, clearly hurt, is past hearing excuses. While Terry insists he's trying to balance his new responsibilities, Dana cuts to the heart of the issue. She wants someone who will actually be there for her. Frustrated, she walks away, leaving Terry stunned. As Dana reaches her car, she finds a white rose and a note that reads, "I'll be there for you." Assuming it's from Terry, she softens a little and decides to give him another chance. Later, at home, Terry is pleasantly surprised when Dana calls. She mentions the rose changed her mind, which confuses Terry. He didn't send it. Still, they agree to meet for a date at Rhino's Chili. Dana gets ready, reassuring her father that Terry's troubled past is behind him, even as Mr. Tan disapproves of their relationship. As she leaves, they notice a shadow outside, but nothing comes of it. Despite her father's concerns, Dana heads off for her date, optimistic. Meanwhile, Batman is called to duty again. He is called to handle Mad Stan, and this is the very first introduction of this character in this series, and he ends up ditching his date yet again. Dana, naturally furious, stumbles upon another rose with the same note, but before she can process it, she's confronted by two giant rats. She wakes up in an underground room filled with junk and is greeted by Patrick, a strange boy who controls the rats and collects discarded things. He tells her she's safe, but it's clear Dana is far from it. The scene shifts to Terry's house, and Dana's father bursts in, demanding to know where his daughter is. Terry is shocked to learn she's missing and quickly alerts Bruce before investigating. He tracks her to Rhino's, where he finds Patrick and his rats. Batman battles the creatures, but Patrick escapes into the sewers. Meanwhile, Dana tries to escape Patrick's hideout on her own, but ends up trapped in a pit swarming with rats. Just as she's about to be overwhelmed, Patrick saves her, only to reveal a darker side. He's kidnapped people like her before, people who didn't understand him, and they didn't survive. When Dana supposedly insults him, Patrick turns his rats on her, but Batman arrives just in time. A fight ensues, with Dana courageously joining in. She sets a hockey stick ablaze, helping them fend off the rats. In their escape, she accidentally triggers an explosion, and while Batman rescues her, the sewer is engulfed in flames. The episode ends with a shaken and exhausted Dana sitting in an ambulance. When Terry arrives to apologize, she collapses into his arms, not wanting to fight about his absence anymore. Episode 10, Mind Games. The episode begins with a snapshot of a family racing through the streets of Gotham in their car. However, a tragedy was about to unfold when lightning struck their vehicle, sending it spinning out of control, but they were saved by Batman, who just happened to be there. Though they were unharmed, the daughter of the family stared at Batman with a hauntingly melancholic look. The next day, at school, Terry McGinnis sat in class, lost in thought about the rescue. During a test, he noticed a new face in the room. It was the same girl from the night before. She approached him, her voice soft and pleading, confusing Terry. After school, Terry told Bruce Wayne about the strange encounter. As Bruce mulled it over, Ace, the ever-vigilant dog, growled, a warning. Terry turned, and there she was again, the girl. Bruce instructed Terry to speak with her. Terry asked the girl her name, Tamara. The girl pulled him into a strange, mental vision. Suddenly, Terry found himself standing in a dim hotel room where he saw Tamara's parents. The father noticed Tamara reaching out, and he stormed toward her. Terry tried to intervene, but his hands passed through the man as if he were an illusion. Back in reality, Bruce quickly identified the location as Gotham Park Towers. Terry, with Max's help, investigated the hotel. They found the mother speaking to an albino man, clearly planning something. Batman broke into the hotel room, but it was empty, save for a small doll that surprisingly resembles a lot like Teletubby. He picked it up, and to his shock, the doll's head morphed into Tamara's face. Suddenly, the supposed father appeared out of nowhere, attacking Batman with immense strength. After a fierce struggle, Batman managed to knock the man out of the window, watching as he plummeted several stories. Incredibly, the man was left unscathed. The scene shifts to the Batcave, where Terry spotted Tamara in a batch of missing children's photos. Terry then naturally reached out to her real parents. Her real parents revealed they had sent her to a school for children with paranormal abilities, but when they tried to send her a toy she'd forgotten, they discovered the school was a front. Batman infiltrated the fake school, discovering the truth about it. A secret society that exploited children with psychic powers. You would notice that the animation in Season 2 saw an improvement in both the quality and complexity of the action sequences and Neo-Gotham's design. The futuristic city's cyberpunk aesthetic became even more vibrant, like here. He confronted the albino man, but the man used a psychic blast to attack Batman. Disoriented, Batman was beaten with a telekinetically controlled cane before finally overpowering his attacker. With no clear lead on Tamara, Terry consulted the doll again. This time, though, Tamara told him she was on a boat at Pier 7. Batman raced to the docks, where he found Tamara locked away by the villainous couple, Bombshell and the Invulnerable Man. After a hard-fought battle, with help from Tamara's psychic abilities, Batman subdued both foes and rescued the girl. In the aftermath, Tamara and her family were placed into protective custody. The episode ends with a smiling Tamara bidding a peaceful goodbye to Terry. Episode 11, Revenant. The episode begins with Terry strolling through his high school's corridors. He suddenly comes across a group of students staring up at the ceiling. There, in the tiles, were the school's sports trophies. Chelsea whispered to him about the rumours floating around. It had to be the ghost of Garrison Jacobs, a student who had tragically died during the construction of the East Wing. Terry and his friend Max weren't buying it, but the rest of the school was convinced. To check it out, Chelsea and Blade, Dana and another girl decided to hold a séance with an Ouija board. They were determined to contact Garrison's spirit. As they called out, only Nelson, the school's notorious skeptic, showed up, mocking the whole thing. Frustrated, he kicked the board, but it suddenly flew up and smacked him in the head. Then, the fire extinguishers went off, and the room's lights exploded. The girls screamed, certain it was Garrison. Nelson, of course, stormed out, but as he left, chairs started hurling toward him. Before things got worse, Batman appeared, intervening just in time, but even he was caught off guard when a giant vid screen attempted to crush him and Nelson. Still, they escaped by a hair's breadth. Shaken, Terry later spoke to Bruce about what happened. Surprisingly, Bruce admitted that he did believe in the supernatural, given his past experiences. Yet something about this situation felt more like a prank than a haunting. At home, Terry's little brother Matt was curious about the Ouija board, suggesting they use it to contact their father. His mother quickly shut down the idea, leaving the little boy sad about not remembering his father enough. The scene shifts back to the Hamilton High next day when the girls face another strange occurrence. In the locker room, the showers went haywire, blasting hot water at full force. After managing to shut them off, they found a message written in the steam on the mirrors. "I still love you." Dinah told Terry that the others thought Garrison's ghost was trying to communicate with an old girlfriend, but Terry realized the message was meant for Blade. Piecing it together, Terry discovered a connection between Nelson, Blade, and a former student, Willie Watt. Remember the guy who went berserk with a gigantic robot Golem? Yes, him. Terry decides to visit Willie in the juvenile hall. Terry sees how much he's changed. Willie was stronger and more confident and soon revealed he had developed telekinetic powers. Willie confessed to causing the chaos at school but had kept it secret to avoid attention. However, Terry's visit ended up blowing up Willie's cover and he escaped the prison. Figuring Willow would take revenge, the school was shut down. However, Willie ambushed Nelson, forcing him to crash his car into the building. They fought apparently in a fair one-on-one fight, but when Nelson began to overpower him, Willie broke his promise of a fair fight, using his telekinesis to turn the tables. Batman intervened but was also overwhelmed by Willa, though in the end, it was Willie's rage that caused him to lose and get detained again. Back at Juvenile Hall, Willie was fitted with a device to block his powers. The episode ends with Terry and Matt reminiscing about their father, and Terry reminds his brother that as long as they remember him, their dad will stay in their hearts, always omnipresent. Episode 12, Babel. The episode begins with Terry and Bruce working to repair the damaged batsuit after a rough battle with Mad Stan. As they work, Bruce shares snippets from his past, telling Terry how he once knowingly walked into a dangerous trap, trusting that Robin would be there to pull him out. When Terry asks what gave him the confidence to trust someone else, Bruce primarily says nothing of substance, but then finally admits that he did not know at all. Bruce tells his protege that sacrifice is a part of their job. However, their conversation is suddenly interrupted by Ace. He begins barking uncontrollably, attacking both Terry and Bruce. Forced to tranquilize him, Terry rushes Ace, now muzzled, to the vet. The clinic is chaotic, filled with animals behaving aggressively. Max is there with her cat and jokes about what things must be like at the zoo. Realizing the joke is no joke at all, Terry heads straight for the Gotham Zoo. Once there, he finds the animals are in disarray, including elephants trying to escape. Batman manages to stop one but is soon attacked by a rampaging gorilla. After a tough fight, he overwhelms the animal, only for an elephant to charge him again, before it suddenly stops, becoming a mild mammal again. The sudden change in their demeanor confuses Terry, and he goes to the Batcave to talk to Bruce. There, Bruce explains that the military has been experiencing sonar interference too. Connecting the dots, they deduce that Shriek is behind the chaos. The scene shifts to Shriek talking with his new assistant, Ollie. While Ollie assumes the plan for their recent experiment is Ransom, Shriek clarifies that it's personal. He blames Batman for his hearing loss and plans to force him into a life or death decision. Later, as Bruce and Terry are talking, their conversation becomes garbled. Through the Batmobile's computer, Bruce theorizes that Shriek has altered the vibration frequency of air molecules, making speech incomprehensible. The effects ripple across the city, leading to near-catastrophic accidents and increasing violence. Shriek soon contacts Commissioner Gordon, demanding Batman surrender himself. While Barbara protests, Shriek is adamant. Bruce refuses to let Terry give himself up, really disappointed and disgusted at the city's selfishness. But public sentiment turns, with many citizens calling for Batman to sacrifice himself. Eventually, conflicted but resolute, Terry returns to Bruce and declares that he'll meet Shriek, not to surrender, but to fight. Terry points out a key detail in the Batcomputer's analysis, a twin-towered building shaped like a tuning fork, Shriek's hidden weapon. This is a clever reference that connects the episode title with the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. At the meeting spot, Shriek uses his towers to incapacitate Batman with a painful ultrasound. To avoid the sound, Shriek removes his helmet, restoring his deafness. In the chaos, Batman outwits Shriek and disables the towers. But as they collapse, Shriek, unable to hear Batman's warning, is buried under the debris. A rescue party soon arrives, but Batman is not so happy with them, since just hours ago they were so readily okay with using his life to save theirs. The episode ends with Bruce thanking the young man for reminding him about his motivations for becoming a savior in the first place. Episode 13. Terry's friend dates a robot. This episode begins with Terry McGinnis training with Bruce Wayne, who guides him through combat tactics where Terry proves as skilled as his mentor. The scene then shifts to Hamilton Hill High. Howard Groot is promoting a party, but no one seems interested. Terry and his girlfriend Dana tell Howard to quit chasing popularity, but Howard is undeterred. Later, Terry heads to a synthoid factory to replace a robot he broke during his practice session earlier with Bruce, and brings Howard along. While Terry is busy, Howard stumbles upon Louis, an employee creating a female synthoid. Despite Louis's warnings about the legality, Howard orders a custom-made companion, specifying only her looks and complete devotion to him. The scene shifts to another day at Hamilton High. The synthoid, whom Howard names Cynthia, turns heads at school, especially catching the attention of popular student Nelson. When Nelson approaches, Cynthia rejects him, making it clear she only has eyes for Howard. Furious, Nelson plans to sabotage Howard, but Cynthia overhears and becomes enraged. Later, Cynthia attacks, nearly crushing Nelson with a row of lockers. Rumors spread, but Cynthia coldly brushes them off, her aloofness alienating the other students. Suspicious of the incident, Terry, along with Max, who offered to get into the boys' locker room, much to Terry's dismay, investigates and notices something amiss: handprints. Now, with Cynthia by his side, Howard re-announces his party, and suddenly everyone wants to get on the party list. Chelsea, the most famous girl in school, now wants to dance with Howard, which infuriates Cynthia. Her jealousy makes Terry suspicious, and he follows her and witnesses her attempt to push a large stone logo onto Chelsea. When he intervenes, Cynthia attacks, throwing him off a building, making Terry realize that Cynthia is not human, but a synthoid. Quickly, Terry changes into Batman and returns to the synthoid factory and discovers Louis running an illegal business. After a fight with several synthoids, Terry captures Louis and shuts down his operation. Meanwhile, at Howard's party, Cynthia grows increasingly possessive, shoving anyone who tries to talk to Howard. When Howard tells her he wants to talk to other girls, Cynthia snaps, malfunctioning violently. Max steps in but struggles against Cynthia's superior strength until Batman arrives. The fight is fierce, with Cynthia's programming deteriorating further. When Howard foolishly suggests they remain friends, not a good thing to say in any situation, robot or human. Cynthia's circuits overload and she self-destructs, obliterating his house. You would realize this episode firmly focuses on divulging into various facets of teen life, unlike the OG Batman series. For instance, Cynthia, the robot, symbolizes how unhealthy and obsessive relationships can become when one party is entirely focused on fulfilling the needs of the other without personal growth or genuine emotional interaction. In the aftermath of the chaos, Howard is momentarily pleased with his newfound popularity until his furious parents return, having cut their vacation short, accusing him of ruining everything. Episode 14, Eyewitness. The episode begins as a usual patrolling night for Batman when notices a cagey delivery late at night. While Bruce asks Terry to be vigilant before jumping into the fray, Terry, without fully understanding the situation, decides to act. He takes down the delivery driver and several gang members, but the buyers manage to escape. In the aftermath, when Terry goes to check on the cargo, he realizes it was a setup. and armed police officers, and a furious Commissioner Barbara Gordon was hiding inside to bust the exchange. Later, at Wayne Manor, Barbara angrily confronts Bruce and issues a stern warning. Another such occurrence would result in Batman's downfall. However, the very next night, while Barbara speaks at an event for her husband, it is gate-crashed by the Mad Stan. While Batman arrives and engages him in a brutal fight, driving Stan into a parking garage, Barbara follows the pair and watches in horror as Batman disarms Stan's massive bomb and slams it down on Stan's head. While Barbara orders Batman to give up, he simply turns and vanishes into the night. Moments later, officers confirm Stan is dead. Barbara immediately put up the order for Terry's imprisonment. However, Terry manages to stay MIA, missing in action, and Bruce simply warns Barbara that when Terry is caught, not just his, but everyone's identities would be at risk, including hers, and that would simply ruin her husband's re-election efforts. In truth, Terry is hiding out with Max when Bruce gets a hold of him. Terry promises that he did not cross the line of murder and only made Mad Stan fall unconscious. On a hunch, Bruce investigates, finding something out of the ordinary that does not tally with the sequence of events. Bruce realizes Terry has been framed and sends him to check Stan's body. But when Terry sneaks into the morgue, he finds the body missing. An invisible intruder raises an alarm, and soon Batman is cornered by the police. However, he narrowly gets away and is guided by Bruce to an underground tunnel, but is ambushed by Barbara. Bruce cleans up the footage and uncovers the truth. Terry is innocent. A closer look reveals a sketchy figure tampering with the scene. Bruce tries to tell Barbara, but in her disillusionment she still pursues Terry, who acts like he'll surrender to prevent, but then throws a batarang, exposing the culprit, the Spellbinder. You can feel that Barbara's distrust of Terry as Batman is rooted in her own experiences with Bruce Wayne, and her disillusionment with vigilante life. This makes it a subtle homage to Batman, the animated series, where she worked closely with Bruce but grew distant as she aged and saw the toll of crime fighting. After being exposed, the Spellbinder tries to attack, but Batman stops him. They manage to subdue him, but he ends up mocking Barbara about her own prejudices against Batman. Later, Barbara, remorseful, apologizes to Terry, admitting her mistake. She also decides to give Terry a Civic Service Award as a peace offering. The episode ends with Stan hooked on the Spellbinder's VR, enjoying himself to the fullest. Episode 15, Final Cut. The episode begins with a private jet touching down briefly at a small airport for a quick repair. Its sole passenger, Master Assassin, leader of the Society of Assassins, is tense. His paranoia proves justified when Curare, a deadly assassin, slips on board unnoticed. Once the plane takes off again, she strikes. The Master Assassin tries to fend her off, but she hurls a capsule that bursts, releasing a gas. He tries to fight, but the gas works fast, erasing his memory. As he loses himself, Curare leaps from the plane. The scene shifts, and someone is aiming at the Batmobile during Batman's nightly survey. Tracking the shooter, Batman confronts him. Mutro Botha, the last living member of the Society. Desperate, Botha confesses that Curare is after them in retaliation as the Society ordered her death after a botched mission. Remember the episode where the assassin failed to kill Barbara Gordon's husband? Yes, that mission. But she managed to become the hunter instead of the prey. She has already hunted all of the members and is now after him. He pleads for Batman's protection, but Batman is not inclined to help him. This makes Botha reveal his leverage. There is a bomb in Gotham City, and he is the one who can decode it. However, if Batman is not ready to help him, he can reset the 12-hour bomb and wreak havoc instantly. Reluctantly, Batman contacts Max, who eagerly jumps at the chance to help. He advises her to reach Bruce Wayne, who is away, but Max isn't content with that. Ignoring Batman's warnings, she sneaks into Botha's hotel room, hoping to find clues. As she's investigating, she is on a call with Batman, and Curare silently enters the room behind her. Curare attacks, and Max barely escapes her sword, hiding in the bathroom. Trapped with no way out, she cowers in the shower. Curare slices through the curtain, and Max screams. Batman, overhearing her terror, rushes to find Max, alive but shaken. Meanwhile, in a park, Botha grows impatient, waiting for Batman to return. Curare finds him first. He puts up a fight, but is no match for her. Another gas capsule takes him down, wiping his mind clean. When Batman arrives, it's too late. Botha's memory is gone, but the bomb's timer is ticking. At Max's apartment, their focus now is the bomb, and Max works out a plan. She triangulates his movements and narrows the location to the Gotham Museum of Armaments. With time running out, Batman agrees to let Max help him in this mission. At the museum, Batman uses a detector to locate the bomb, but Curare attacks before they can find it. While Batman fends her off, Max grabs the detector and continues the search. Chaos erupts as debris from the fight knocks Max down, smashing the detector. Just as all hope seems lost, Max spots the bomb. With only scant seconds left, she chose recklessly to yank out the wiring, and the bomb was deactivated. Interestingly, the way Max kills the bomb mimics how Batgirl from the new Batman adventures did it. With the threat gone, the situation is easily deflated, as Batman has also subdued his opponent. Later, at Max's apartment, the two patch themselves up. The episode ends with Max and Terry sharing a feeling of true camaraderie. Episode 16, The Last Resort. The episode begins with Batman going over recent school activities with Max when suddenly sirens blare. A runaway truck, outpacing the police, barrels through the streets. Batman intervenes but finds the truck's driver is racing wildly. Despite the challenge, Batman eventually stops the driver, Sean Miller, a student in Terry's history class. Later, this incident is used as an advertisement for a new rehabilitation clinic for the troubled youth of Gotham. Dr. David Wheeler, the clinic's founder, assures parents his methods will help their children cure themselves of lunatic behaviours. As such, the clinic quickly gains popularity, and soon most of the high schoolers are admitted to the clinic. This makes Chelsea suspicious, and she talks to the school principal about it in an email, but that email led to her enrollment in the clinic. Ironic, isn't it? However, this makes Terry and his close friends grow concerned, knowing Chelsea isn't a troubled youth. The scene shifts to the clinic, where Chelsea meets Sean, the boy who is racing wildly with the truck, who's hostile and accuses her of gossiping. She tries to connect with Adam Stepnick, an old friend, but he's eerily unresponsive, painting a blank canvas with a dry brush. Sean cryptically mentions ISO. Before Chelsea can get answers, the students are herded into a strict class by Vincent, the head guard. Meanwhile, Batman goes to investigate the clinic and overhears Dr. Wheeler berating students. They're forced to stand for hours and denied even the smallest reprieve. A boy pleads for sleep, but Wheeler orders him sent to ISO. Back at the Batcave, Terry wants to shut the clinic immediately by leveraging whatever he heard at the ranch, but Bruce reminds him that without revealing their secret, it is not possible to go after the clinic. They need something else. Determined, Terry decides to go undercover. Thus, Terry goes to the clinic again, trying to visit Chelsea. He also carries with him a hidden camera. Unfortunately, Vincent confiscates his backpack before he heads in. Inside, Terry finds Chelsea in a distressing state. She reveals the clinic's abusive conditions and explains that ISO is a sensory deprivation chamber designed to make students feel utterly isolated. Desperate, Chelsea begs Terry to get her out. As Terry tries to leave, Sean confronts him, leading to a fight. Terry is captured, his camera is discovered, and Wheeler plots to either discredit or kill him. Sean, also punished, taunts Terry, but they soon agree to cooperate and escape together. The next morning, they overpower the guards and break free, aided by Adam. Sean also releases the other students. While the guards attempt to regain control, Terry retrieves the batsuit which was in the backpack that was taken away and defeats the guards, while also managing to subdue Vincent. Meanwhile, amid the chaos, Sean is trying to actively kill Wheeler by holding him by the neck off a wall. Batman asks Sean to stop, but to no avail. Once the parents arrive along with the police, Sean is apprehended. As the students reunite with their families, Chelsea is not very warm and cordial towards her father. Episode 17, Armory. This episode begins with a birthday party. A boy named Jared Tate has invited his friends over, including Terry, Dana, and Max. The highlight is a big surprise, a brand new car from his stepfather, Jim. Jared's mum, Lorraine, questions the extravagance, but Jim brushes it off. However, not long after, Jim gets hit with devastating news. He's being laid off. Paxton Powers is cutting jobs and merging divisions, and Jim's department, light weapons manufacturing, is on the chopping block. Jim tries to stay optimistic, but after days of searching, he's no closer to finding a new job. The frustration mounts until he runs into an old acquaintance, Istvan Hegedesh, who hints at a shady opportunity. Istvan tells Jim that a foreign country would pay handsomely for a prototype weapon Jim had been working on at Wayne Powers, a sonic beam emitter that can blast through steel. The catch, however, is that Jim does not have it in hand and would have to steal the design specs. Tempted by the promise of a hefty payout, Jim agrees. Jim thus sneaks into Wayne Powers, armed with a combat suit and mask from his time spent in Special Forces. He manages to steal the plans, but gets on both ends, first by police and also by Batman. Using his sophisticated, non-lethal weapons, he narrowly escapes. He is now dubbed as the Human Armory. With a down payment from Istvan, Jim is asked to do a second job. He needs to break into another facility to complete the weapon, though he's clearly conflicted. However, he reluctantly agrees. Back home, Jared notices that Jim has been distant, spending hours locked away in his workshop. Curious, Jared sneaks in one day while Jim is out. He's poking around when Jim suddenly returns, and Jared hides. Jim meets with Istvan, who's there to collect the finished weapon. Jim demands his final payment, but a spider startles Jared, giving away his hiding spot. The confrontation that follows is tense. Jared accuses Jim of betraying their family, and Lorraine soon enters, shocked by the revelation. Jim tries to justify his actions, insisting he did it all for them, just temporarily, to keep them afloat. But neither Jared nor Lorraine are willing to accept his excuses. Just then, Batman shows up outside. In the chaos, Istvan grabs the weapon and fires, ripping through the workshop. He storms outside, determined to put an end to Batman. Using the sonic beam to topple a large tower, Istvan corners the vigilante, but just as he's about to deliver a killing blow, Jim steps in, using his adhesive rifle to disable the weapon. In a fit of rage, Istvan charges at Jim, knocking him down, but Batman quickly subdues him. Jim, shaken, turns to his family, hugging them tightly. The episode ends with Jared informing his friends that his stepfather is holding up, and due to his imminent cooperation, would receive a shorter sentence. However, Jared is still in low spirits, and Max lightens the mood by flirting, lifting his spirits just a little. You must have noticed, though, that certain someone was missing from the show, Bruce Wayne. This is the third episode in this series when he is not present. Episode 18, Sneak Peek. This episode begins with a new episode of The Inside Peek, where reporter Ian Peek dishes out the latest gossip on Gotham's elite. He teases scandals, like a boxer's trainer flirting with the athlete's girlfriend, rocker Jamie Gerald's illegal splicing habits, and, for the headline story, Paxton Powers' indecent behaviour at a private party. Matt McGuinness watches, intrigued, but his mum switches off the TV. Irritated, Terry, nearby, jokes that it's just entertainment, but his mum snaps back, saying he wouldn't feel the same if he was the one that was gossiped about. Later that night, crime boss Jimmy Lynn sneaks into City Hall for a secret meeting with DA Sam Young to testify about his gang's activities. Lynn is nervous, but Sam reassures him that they're alone. Unbeknownst to them, a mysterious figure, composed of flashing blue and black energy, sneaks in, recording Lynn's confession. When Sam spots the intruder, he calls security, but the mystery man disables the guard with ease. Batman arrives to intervene, but his punches go right through the man, who can strike back. After setting a fire, the man escapes unharmed, later deactivating his energy field to reveal himself as Ian Peek. You might want to note that the camera Ian uses to record is the same type Batman used to record and reveal the rehabilitation clinic back in episode 16. At school, Terry, curious after his encounter, asks his physics teacher if objects can pass through one another. His teacher dismisses it as impossible, though one scientist, Nobuo Taka, once believed it could be done. When Terry brings this up to Bruce, he learns that Taka worked for Wayne Enterprises, but died in a fire years ago. Still, the connection nags at Terry. On the Inside Peek, Ian reveals footage of Lynn's secret meeting, tipping Terry off. Batman confronts Ian, But before getting answers, Lynn and his gang ambush the reporter. Ian escapes, placing a hidden camera inside the Batmobile. Unaware of the bug, Terry returns to the Batcave, and Ian secretly records everything, including Terry and Bruce unmasking. The next morning, a teaser for Ian's upcoming episode promises to reveal Batman's identity. Bruce finds the spy camera, but it's too late to stop the broadcast. While Terry blames himself, Bruce remains stoic, though he's annoyed too. As the show approaches, Ian experiences worsening stomach pains, discovering in horror that his body is beginning to phase uncontrollably. When Batman confronts him, Ian smugly reveals that he's figured out Bruce's and Terry's secret. But Terry, more concerned for Bruce than himself, demands that Ian leave Bruce out of it. Back at home, Terry's family eagerly awaits the show. However, the broadcast is suddenly postponed, and Terry, suspicious, heads to investigate. At the studio, Bruce confronts Ian, who begs for help as his body phases uncontrollably. Ian admits to stealing Tucker's research and causing the fire that killed him, but Bruce refuses to help. Desperate, Ian attacks, but his body phases completely, sinking through the floor. Batman tries to save him, but Ian loses control and sinks deeper, doomed to fall until he reaches the Earth's core.
Look who's talking.
Episode 19, The Egg Baby. The episode begins and a truck rumbles up to a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of Gotham. Three figures step out: Carl, Slim, and their middle-aged mother, Ma Mayhem. Under the cover of night, they break into the mansion and force the butler to show them the safe. After blowing it open, Ma Mayhem sorts through the valuables, dismissing most until she finds a ruby ring. With that in hand, they leave, ignoring everything else. The next morning, Bruce Wayne contacts Terry McGinnis to inform him about the robbery. Ma Mayhem has been stealing ruby jewelry lately, though the reason remains unclear. However, Terry's attention is diverted as he is failing one of his courses, Family Studies class. Miss Pinto, his teacher, assigns a major project. The students will take care of computerized egg babies that behave like real infants. The task will make up half of their final grade. Terry has to maintain his grades, and therefore, this project is important to him. The class is split into random pairs to share the responsibility. Terry is paired with Blade, much to his girlfriend's dismay, who couldn't care less about the project. That evening, while he was gearing up for a mission, Blade drops by unannounced. She dumps the egg baby on Terry, leaving him no choice but to bring it along as he heads out to track down Ma Mayhem. Surprisingly, this is the last time Blade appears on screen in the Batman Beyond series. During his stakeout, the egg baby suddenly starts crying, alerting the criminals to Batman's presence. Terry struggles to protect the egg baby from being damaged. Distracted, he barely escapes with his life, and the Mayhem gang slips away. The next day, Terry continues juggling the egg baby with his Batman duties, much to Bruce's annoyance. Terry's mother refuses to babysit, while his brother, Matt, uses the egg baby for target practice with rubber bands. Even Bruce declines to help. Terry prepares for another mission, ensuring the egg baby is well fed and rested. The scene shifts to the Museum of Fashion. Terry stashes the egg baby on what appears to be an air conditioning unit before confronting Ma Mayhem and her sons. He tries to fight them, but they flee with the egg baby because the apparent air conditioning unit is an illusion for their truck. Desperate, Terry tracks the egg baby's cries via the Batmobile's scanners. Meanwhile, at Ma Mayhem's hideout, she celebrates completing her ruby collection, but hears the baby cry. Batman arrives just as Carl drops the egg baby from a window. Terry saves it and, after a chaotic fight, manages to outwit the gang. This fun episode, which won an Emmy Award, ends with Terry receiving the highest grade. Miss Pinto praises him, noting his egg baby experienced the most mental stimulation.
Run!
Episode 20, Zeta. The episode starts at Hamilton High, and during a biology lecture, Max and Terry notice something odd about their teacher, Miss Martell. Instead of answering questions naturally, she recites pre-written information, raising their suspicions. Later, while discussing their concerns, a group of men disguised as phone workers pull guns on Miss Martell, who combats it skillfully and runs away. A high-speed chase ensues, but her car crashes. Just as her pursuers close in, Batman arrives, preventing them from shooting her. However, Miss Martell manages to escape while Agent Bennett, one of the attackers, reveals the truth. Miss Martell is actually a synthoid. It was known as Zeta and was originally designed as an assassin but has gone rogue. Since Zeta was on a mission to infiltrate a terrorist group, Bennett believes it must be working with them now and is determined to destroy it. That scene shifts to Max, still concerned, hacking into the NSA files and discovering Zeta's homing beacon. Dana interrupts Max's intense focus, casually inviting her to a study group, unaware of the bigger stakes. Unbeknownst to everyone, Zeta has already assumed Max's identity and sneaks into the Gotham Mint. The next day, Terry notices Max acting strangely and quickly realizes this isn't his friend, so he decides to trail the robot. Zeta returns to the Mint, where the real Max is held captive. To her surprise, Zeta, now in disguise, offers her a sandwich and explains that while he was created to kill, he no longer wants to. Max believes him and convinces Zeta to remove his built-in weapons, but Batman, unaware of the change, attacks Zeta. A chaotic fight breaks out, with neither side willing to back down. Eventually, Zeta saves Batman from being crushed by the Mint's printing press, proving his peaceful intentions. However, the NSA arrives and escalates the situation, forcing Zeta to arm himself once again. Only Batman's intervention prevents further violence. Zeta then explains his decision to stop killing is a more sentimental one, as during the mission, he lived with an accountant's family and, seeing the daughter ride her bike for the first time, couldn't bring himself to harm them. Zeta then builds a signal filter to mask his homing beacon, allowing him to adopt a new identity. Max suggests mixing facial features to create a new persona, and Zeta manages to come up with a passable face before leaving. Batman, still cautious, follows Zeta to the train station, where the NSA agents are waiting. Despite Zeta's efforts to stay hidden, an accident exposes him. Batman intercepts the agents while Zeta disarms Bennett, but instead of killing him, destroys the gun and walks away. Bennett tries to shoot him again, and Zeta falls from the building. Batman investigates and discovers that Zeta faked his death. To put a cover up, he blows it up too. The episode ends with Zeta escaping on a train with his new identity, while Batman returns to Gotham, reassured that Zeta has found a peaceful path forward. This ending has led to the production of a spin-off series titled The Zeta Project, which aired from 2001-2002.
The virus!
Episode 21, Plague. The episode opens in an airport where Terry, Dana and Chelsea wait anxiously for Nelson's return from Saint Denis. When Nelson goes through customs, an agent discovers a vial of strange green fluid in his bag. Nelson, caught off guard, denies knowing anything about it and insists it must have been slipped into his luggage while he was not looking. The customs agent seems to believe him, taking the vial and letting Nelson go. But once Nelson leaves, the agent secretly hands the vial over to a Cobra operative. This is the first introduction of Cobra in the DC world, and a plot line that will be explored in the next season. He is Falseface, aka someone who can change his facial features. Nelson reunites with the group, but before they can reach their car, Stalker intercepts him. Stalker grabs Nelson and drags him to the roof of the building. Dangling him dangerously, Stalker demands to know where the glass container ended up. Before Stalker can proceed though, Batman appears, confronting him. Stalker, however, claims he doesn't want to fight, but Batman is unconvinced. Just then, Agent Bennett arrives, backing up Stalker's story. Bennett explains that Stalker is working with the NSA to track down Falseface, a mercenary capable of altering his appearance, now employed by Cobra. Cobra is threatening to unleash a deadly supervirus on Gotham unless they're paid a hefty ransom. Reluctantly, Batman agrees to work with Stalker after Bruce Wayne advises him it's the best course of action. Following a lead, Batman and Stalker head to the Muscle City sweatshop, where they find Cobra agents preparing for the virus's release. Batman suggests they wait and observe, but Stalker, impatient, attacks. Luckily, they find a disc containing floor plans for Gotham manufacturers' plastics. At the plastics company, Falseface, now in disguise, disables the security system and lets Cobra agents inside. He learns that Cobra plans to coat unmarked creds with the virus, ensuring it spreads with every transaction. As Batman and Stalker arrive, a fight breaks out. However, they manage to subdue Falseface temporarily, using a tracking grenade. It was then the Cobra 1 revealed a backup plan. Falseface himself has been infected with the virus, and is now a walking contagion. Stalker and Batman pursue him through the city. When they finally catch up, Falseface, unaware of his infection, refuses to listen. Batman continues the chase but loses sight of him. Falseface, trying to blend in, assumes Nelson's appearance, but Batman, knowing the real Nelson, easily sees through the disguise. The confrontation moves into a factory where Falseface starts a fire, battling Batman with a pipe. Batman holds his own, but eventually is overwhelmed by the explosions caused by the raging fire. As Falseface prepares to deliver a final blow, he suddenly collapses in agony as the virus takes hold. Panicking, Falseface flees. However, Batman is in a precarious situation when unexpectedly, Stalker appears. Instead of finishing Batman off, Stalker frees him, and together they escape. For now, a team.
April Moon.
Episode 22, April Moon. The episode opens with 4 teenagers clambered out of a beat-up sedan near Gotham Jewelry Planet. Their leader, who had recently adopted the name Bullwhip, exuded confidence, but one of his gang members hesitated, visibly shaken. However, Bullwhip assures him as he cracks the steel whip that extends from his wrist with a dramatic flare. With the signal given, the gang sprang into action. One of the boys activated his retractable suit of armor, smashing through the jewelry store's steel door like it was made of paper. Another revved the chainsaws attached to his wrists and knees, slicing effortlessly into the vault. They made quick work of the heist until Batman arrived. The Dark Knight descended from the shadows, taking down the saw-wielding thug with a few expert moves, snapping one of his knee blades and disarming him. Just when it seemed Batman had the upper hand, the 4th member, who had been standing guard outside, attacked with piston-powered fists. The gang quickly regrouped and swarmed Batman, overwhelming him with their enhanced strength and brutality, enabling them to make a run for it along with their night's loot. Back at the Batcave, Terry McGinnis presented a small servo motor from the broken chainsaw knee to Bruce Wayne. Bruce's eyes narrowed as he inspected the advanced tech, realizing it was the handiwork of someone he knew. Dr. Corso was a brilliant prosthetics expert, once hailed for revolutionizing artificial limbs. Terry and Bruce now suspected he was involved with the gang's enhancements. As Terry set out to find Corso in a hidden workshop, Bullwhip and his gang returned to Corso, who scolded them for leaving behind the servo motor. But Bullwhip brushed him off, reminding the Doctor of the deal that forced him into cooperation. Trapped, Corso reluctantly continued his work, though the strain of his situation was clearly taking its toll. Terry tracked Corso down to his lab, but when he confronted the Doctor, Corso refused to give up any information. In a desperate move, Corso injected Batman with a sedative. When Terry woke hours later, groggy and frustrated, the lab was empty. Corso had vanished along with his equipment. Later on, Terry vented his frustration to Max, his close friend and confidant. Max, always the rational thinker, pointed out that Corso had deliberately spared him. Maybe there was more to the story. Reconsidering, Terry decided to lure Corso out of hiding by staging a crisis. Sure enough, the panicked Doctor responded, albeit cautiously. When Batman cornered Corso, the Doctor finally broke down. He confessed that the gang had kidnapped April. His beloved wife forced him to create their cybernetic enhancements. He also shows a picture of April under a moonlit sky, which reminds Terry of a song. The song mentioned here is April Moon by Sam Brown, released in 1990. Their talk is interrupted though when the gang finds them. They hide, however. They soon find out that the Doctor's beloved and loyal wife might not be so loyal after all. She is not the gang's hostage, but an apparent accomplice, which shocks the Doctor and Batman. Furthermore, they see April and Bullwhip kiss, which mentally ravages the Doctor. He cries out, and then the commotion alerts the gang. As Batman engages them, he realizes that the key to the failsafes lies in Corso's emotional connection to April. Recalling a photo of April under a full moon, Batman tries April Moon as the safe code, and suddenly, one by one, the gang's servo motors shut down. The members are rendered powerless, except for Bullwhip, who manages to escape. In the aftermath, Terry reports back to Bruce, frustrated that Bullwhip and April have disappeared along with Corso. However, Bruce theorizes that Bullwhip may not return when Terry mentions April's infidelity. Ominous, isn't it? But jealousy can do that to the sanest of people. Later, in a new clinic, Bullwhip is on the operating table, demanding one last upgrade to make him stronger than ever. Corso, appearing compliant, assures him the job will be done. As Bullwhip slipped into unconsciousness, the last thing he saw was Corso approaching with a drill, his voice dark with finality. Episode 23, Sentries of the Last Cosmos. The episode begins on a distant planet. A group of soldiers zip through the sky on flying discs, gripping energy swords as they try to escape pursuing spaceships. One of the soldiers crashes, but another skillfully evades the attackers. Just as one soldier is nearly caught, a teammate swoops in and destroys the spaceship. With the enemies down, the soldiers remove their helmets to reveal Max, Terry, and Corey Cavalieri. They're not intergalactic warriors, they're just playing Sentries of the Last Cosmos, a virtual reality game. You might notice that many things in this episode bear a stark resemblance to Star Wars, such as the background music, certain costumes, etc. Corey is last to take off his helmet, beaming with pride when he realizes he's achieved the all-time high score. But reality doesn't reward Corey as much as his virtual victories. Unbeknownst to him, a real sentry is quietly watching. Later on, at school, Corey is more than a little enthusiastic about creating fanfics about the game and brushes off Max's concern that he's becoming too obsessed. Eventually one day, an email from Simon Harper, the creator of the game, arrives. Harper invites Corey to his private estate, Sentrycroft. Ecstatic, Corey accepts the invitation without hesitation. Arriving at Sentrycroft, Corey is amazed. The vehicles, weapons, and uniforms he's only seen in the game come to life before his eyes. He meets two other players, Dempsey and Burford, who are equally awestruck. Simon Harper greets them, whose suit resembles that of Jedi, congratulating the boys for being the top 3 players in Gotham to have achieved great points in the game. But then, Harper drops a bombshell. The world of Sentries of the Last Cosmos is real. The game was secretly a test, designed to recruit new warriors to fight in an ongoing cosmic battle. Harper invites them to join the real-life core of Sentries. Meanwhile, in Gotham, Batman hears about a break-in at the Hall of Records. Investigating, he encounters the new Sentries who are preparing to destroy records they believe are infected by the Dark Regent. When Batman tries to stop them, they quickly overpower him and destroy the records. Later on, at school, Terry talks to Max about what happened. Max recalls Corey's talk of a wise one at Sentrycroft, and they begin to suspect something is wrong. Corey, usually unable to stop talking about his latest interests, is strangely silent about Sentrycroft. Their suspicions grow. Thus, Batman infiltrates Sentrycroft but is attacked by security probes. After disabling them, he confronts Harper, who denies any connection to the Sentries' attacks. But Harper is lying. As soon as Batman leaves, he orders his sentries to go after someone named Eldon Michaels, a man Harper claims is the Dark Regent in disguise. Batman, already investigating the connection between Harper and Michaels, tracks Eldon to his apartment. There, he finds a terrified Eldon, who is armed but clearly was no threat. But before they can talk much, the sentries burst in and capture him. Batman fights them, but is overwhelmed again. However, he manages to recover the envelope Eldon was trying to give him. The sentries deliver Eldon to Harper, furious that he is still alive. Harper attacks Eldon himself, hurling lightning bolts at him, accusing him of conspiracy. Eldon is bewildered as well as the sentries. Meanwhile, Batman arrives with the envelope. Inside is the original story of Sentries of the Last Cosmos, written by Eldon. Batman explains that Harper cut Eldon out of the project to hog the fame and fortune. The records the Sentries destroyed, they were evidence of Eldon's legal claim. Harper tries to attack Batman, but the Sentries, now realizing they've been lied to, turn on him. Later, Terry returns to Bruce, wondering why Harper went through so much trouble when he was already rich. Bruce suggests it wasn't about money. Harper craved adoration. It skillfully highlights the darker tones of this show, greed for recognition, and serves as a cautionary tale. Episode 24, Payback. The episode opens in a busy store named Jean's Age. A teenager named Drew is wrapping up his shift, but as he steps towards the door, eager to get home, his boss, Warren, calls him back, insisting he stay for overtime. Drew, tired and frustrated, objects, but Warren apparently enjoys his little power trip and threatens to fire him. Reluctantly, Drew returns to the store just as a tall, menacing figure enters. The newcomer, dressed in a dark, almost sinister outfit, commands the room with his presence. Warren, unimpressed and always cocky, makes a snide comment. Without a word, the figure calmly locks the door behind him. Then, with sudden violence, the figure attacks Warren, catching him off guard. Panicking, Warren grabs the cash drawer, hoping that offering money will satisfy the attacker, but the figure, with disdain, swats it away like it's nothing. Desperate, Warren tries to run, but the figure, now identified as a masked vigilante named Payback, turns to Drew and, in a calm voice, tells him to stay put. Payback refocuses on Warren, who's now groveling, pleading for his life. Payback, with cold clarity, declares that this is for all the kids Warren has mistreated and exploited. As Warren continues to beg, Payback pulls out a laser whip ready to strike. A little closer inspection would award you with the knowledge that the whip here bears striking resemblance to one used in an episode of Justice League Unlimited. But just then, our teenage hero, Batman, appears. Payback insists he's on Batman's side, claiming that he's doing what Batman would want. But Batman refuses to condone the violence, and Payback, seeing the rejection, turns on him. After a short but intense fight, Payback manages to escape, leaving Warren alive but terrified. Later, in the Batmobile, Terry discusses the encounter with Bruce Wayne. Bruce, ever the mentor, chides Terry much to his chagrin. Bruce also reveals a pattern linking Payback's victims. Apparently, they're all connected to teens who attend the Gotham Youth Counseling Center. Suspicious, Terry goes undercover, posing as a troubled teen at the center to investigate. At the center, Terry listens as various teenagers share their struggles. One girl, Trina, talks about problems with her boyfriend, Dwayne. When it's Terry's turn, he speaks vaguely about his overbearing boss, a clear reference to Bruce. After the session, Dr. Stanton, the head counselor, introduces Terry to his son Kenny and Howard. Kenny, constantly trying to gain his father's attention, is repeatedly brushed aside as Dr. Stanton remains absorbed in work. However, Terry has other things in mind. Determined to dig deeper, Terry sneaks into Dr. Stanton's office later that night and begins hacking into his computer. Before he can finish, he's knocked out cold. When he wakes up, Dr. Stanton and Howard are standing over him. The scene shifts back to the Batcave. Bruce tends to Terry's injuries and once again scolds him for being careless. Believing Howard may be Payback, Terry returns to the center and finds a laser whip in Howard's workspace. Convinced he's found his culprit, Batman confronts Howard, but after a brief scuffle, it's clear Howard is innocent. If you listen to Payback's and Howard's voice, you will notice the similarity in tones since they are voiced by the same actor. At that moment, Bruce alerts Terry that Payback is attacking Dwayne across town. Rushing to the scene, Batman barely manages to save him. However, Terry is in for some bashing from his mentor. Bruce reprimands Terry for jumping to conclusions. Terry, frustrated and certain Dr. Stanton is behind the attacks, presses his case, but Bruce refuses to indulge in Terry's assumptions any further. Soon after, Payback strikes again, this time targeting Bruce himself at a public event. Batman arrives just in time to save him. In the final confrontation, it's revealed that Payback is actually Kenny, Dr. Stanton's son, who explains that he believes if he could solve the teen's problems, maybe his father would finally have time for him. As Kenny is taken away by the police, Dr. Stanton is left devastated, realizing his neglect led to his son's downfall. Bruce, seeing the damage of a strained father-son relationship, advises Stanton to be with Kenny in his time of need. In a rare moment of approval, Bruce tells Terry that he's grown, but Terry knows something about his performance was more than acting, as if everything struck a little too close to home.
Say I didn't warn you.
Mace! Water! Water!
Episode 25. Where's Terry? The episode begins, and Terry with his group of friends is leaving a theatre out into the cool night air. Dana, enjoying their time together, admits she's upset that Terry's job always gets in the way. Terry, understanding her frustration, reassures her with a gentle smile, telling her she's more important to him than anything else. Their conversation ends with a tender kiss, and Terry heads into the subway, leaving Dana with a warm, lingering feeling. As Terry boards the subway, he notices a suspicious man in a trench coat and hat moving through the crowd. Intrigued, Terry decides to follow him. He slips into the tunnels, keeping his distance, but loses the man as a train rushes by. Undeterred, Terry ventures deeper into the tunnels. The scene shifts to the next morning when Terry's mother notices his bed hasn't been slept in. Concerned, she assumes he didn't come home, but believes he might just be busy. At school, Dana can't help but worry too. Though she convinces herself that Terry is probably just sick, her anxiety lingers. Meanwhile, Max, Terry's best friend, is also on edge. When she talks to Dana, they both realize they haven't heard from him. Later, Bruce Wayne, Terry's mentor, becomes concerned when he can't contact Terry. He arrives at Max's house, demanding to know where Terry was last seen. Despite his instructions for Max to stay behind, she refuses, following Bruce as they head out to investigate. Terry, now in his Batman suit, wakes up buried under rubble. Disoriented, he looks up to see a young boy staring at him. The boy, wary of Batman, demands to know why he's there. Batman explains that he was tracking someone but blacked out after being spotted. The boy, who introduces himself as Dak, offers to help Batman find the fastest way out. Elsewhere, Shriek, one of Batman's foes, is alerted by his equipment that Batman is still alive. Furious, he dons his suit and begins blasting the tunnels, trying to bury Batman once and for all. As Terry and Dak move cautiously through the tunnels, Terry realizes the boy is a runaway. However, their banter is cut short when Shriek's attack causes another cave-in, trapping them both. Meanwhile, Bruce and Max are also on Terry's trail. Max spots a group of street punks, the T's, and realizes one of them has Terry's backpack. Bruce confronts the T's, offering to buy the backpack, but they're suspicious and attack him. However, Max is successful in fending them off. Together, they learn more about where Terry was last seen and continue their search. The scene shifts to Terry and Dak discovering a hollow spot in one of the tunnel walls. Hoping it's an escape route, Terry sets explosives, but instead of a clear path, they find a blocked support beam. However, a small opening in the ceiling gives Dak a way out. Trusting the boy, Terry encourages him to escape, though Dak hesitates, surprised by the faith Batman places in him. Reluctantly, Dak climbs out but is quickly confronted by Shriek. Meanwhile, Max and Bruce argue about her involvement, but their conversation is interrupted when they notice subway workers have sealed off part of the tunnel. Bruce creates a distraction, allowing Max to sneak in, though he quickly sabotages her attempt and uses the diversion to sneak in himself. Back in the tunnels, Shriek threatens Dak into revealing Batman's location. Shriek blasts through the tunnel wall, inadvertently flooding it with water from the Gotham River. Both Dak and Shriek are swept away in the surge, but Batman uses the chaos to break free. He rescues Dak just in time, but Shriek catches up, ready to finish the job. Before he can strike, Bruce arrives and takes Shriek down. This consequently happens to be the last appearance of Shriek in the series. With the crisis over, Dak leaves to return home. Terry finally makes it back and finds his mother waiting. She's relieved to see him, assuming his neat bed means he's getting more responsible. As she ushers him to breakfast, Terry can't help but smile, grateful for the peace after a long night. Episode 26, Ace in the Hole. This episode begins with Terry driving Bruce to his chiropractor appointment and deciding to take Ace, Bruce's loyal dog, for a walk while waiting. Everything seemed routine until Ace suddenly spotted a strange man. Without warning, the normally calm dog became wild, dragging Terry along as he chased after the man. Despite Terry's best efforts to stop him, Ace broke free from his leash and vanished. Back at the manor, Bruce, with his usual calm demeanor, listened as a frustrated Terry explained what happened. Baffled as to why Ace had gone after the man, Terry described the stranger. Bruce, ever methodical, sketched a composite of the man and matched it against criminal records. The portrait was of Ronnie Boxer, a known figure in the world of animal cruelty and illegal dogfights. Later on, Bruce quickly reported Ace missing to the police and animal control. Terry, however, couldn't help but notice that Bruce wasn't as outwardly worried as he had expected. Bruce reassured him that Ace was capable of handling himself, but Terry, ever the more impulsive of the two, was still anxious. Determined to help, Terry revealed a plan of his own. He had gotten wind of some thugs connected to illegal dogfights and decided to infiltrate their operation by posing as a kid looking to sell a frightful dog. To make his story convincing, he wrapped a fake bandage around his arm, claiming his dog had attacked him. Amused by his act, One of the thugs told Terry where to go. While Terry was off executing his plan, Bruce stood alone in the manor, his thoughts heavy. He gazed at Ace's bone and dish by the fireplace, wondering silently what had become of his faithful companion. Ace's story, however, had deeper roots than Terry knew. As a puppy, Ace had been sold illegally to Boxer, who had seen the potential to make profits from the young dog. He intended to mold him into a champion fighter. Ace's life in captivity was filled with torment, raised in cruel conditions to become aggressive and ruthless. His first fight was meant to prove his worth against a much larger beast. But just as the fight was about to start, the police raided the arena. Boxer and his associates were arrested, while Ace managed to escape and spent months living as a stray. This continued until one day, Ace crossed paths with Bruce in Crime Alley. A member of the Joker's gang had attempted to mug Bruce, who easily fended off the thug. But when the Joker's member tried to attack again, Ace intervened, protecting Bruce at his own risk. After the scuffle, a wounded Ace was carried back by Bruce, who found an unexpected bond with the brave dog that saved him. In the present, Terry's sting operation had led him to Boxer's hideout, but it was eerily empty when he arrived as Batman. Inside, he discovered a makeshift chemistry lab and large containers of Serostone, a growth hormone. Meanwhile, Ace wandered the streets until he was captured by Animal Control. Unfortunately, the officer who took him in was the same corrupt attendant who had sold him to Boxer years ago. Impressed by Ace's size and strength, the officer removed his tags and sold him back to Boxer, who instantly recognized the dog. Laughing darkly, Boxer declared that it must be fate. However, Terry managed to track down Boxer's latest dogfighting arena, hidden inside an old cargo ship. But Boxer had anticipated his arrival and set a trap. As Terry entered, the doors sealed shut, and Boxer unleashed a monstrous, deformed creature, an experiment gone wrong. The beast, once a dog, was now a rabid, elephant-sized nightmare. As Terry struggled to evade the creature, the impact of their battle loosened the lock on Ace's cage. Freed, Ace rushed to Terry's aid, just as the creature swallowed him whole. In a surge of adrenaline, Ace attacked the monster, forcing it to regurgitate Terry. Seizing the opportunity, Terry electrocuted the beast, finally bringing it down. Outside, Terry and Ace traced the Boxer to the ship's stern, where the man now dangled precariously above the propellers, screaming for mercy. Terry and Ace left him to his fate. The episode ends on a sweet note, with Terry taking Ace back to Wayne Manor, where Ace rushes joyfully into Bruce's waiting arms, finally home.
That you're a lying philanderer? That you destroyed our family?
Season 3, 2000-2001, Episode 1, King's Ransom. The episode opens with a recurring foe, the Royal Flush Gang, planning a museum heist. But without their tech expert 10, aka Melanie, they lack the skills to bypass the security system. Jack, their youngest, points this out, only to be berated by his father, King. The argument distracts Jack, who accidentally triggers the alarm. Batman soon arrives, and a fight ensues. Ace, their robotic enforcer, is damaged and Jack is captured. King and Queen, however, manage to escape with a Jaguar statue, albeit one with a broken ear. Back at the police, Jack is interrogated by Commissioner Gordon, who suspects the family didn't steal the statue for themselves. Meanwhile, King delivers the broken statue to Paxton Powers, their employer. Paxton, displeased with the damage, offers King less payment. When King protests, Paxton's assistant swiftly beats him down, forcing him to accept the pity money. Back at their hideout, Queen scolds her husband, comparing him to her late father, the former king. She suggests that perhaps it's time to retire, but King, refusing to give up, unveils a backup plan, kidnapping Paxton for ransom. Meanwhile, Melanie Walker, former 10 of the gang, is working as an assistant chef. When Batman approaches her, asking about her family's whereabouts, she swears she's cut ties with them. She then inquires if Terry McGinnis received the letter she left for him. Batman confirms he did, leaving Melanie saddened that Terry never responded. The scene shifts and the gang holds Paxton for ransom, but Paxton insists he doesn't have the cash. His wealth is in investments and perks. Desperate, King calls Bruce Wayne, demanding he raid the company's funds. Bruce coldly reminds him that Paxton, as CEO, instituted a policy forbidding ransom payments. Furious, Queen again belittles her husband, calling him a fraud. King, at his breaking point, threatens Paxton, who offers a piece of his stolen art collection as ransom, the Crown of Tikal. King contacts Bruce again, giving him the security codes to retrieve the crown. Paxton, realizing the danger he's in, proposes something darker. If Bruce were eliminated, Paxton would be free to reward his captors with millions. Though the Queen balks at the idea, the King accepts. Bruce retrieves the crown, while Terry tracks the gang. However, Terry gets snared by Ace and then is promptly knocked unconscious. At the rendezvous, Bruce delivers the ransom, but King, unwilling to let him walk away, attacks. While they fight it out, Ace, the dog, attacks the King. Meanwhile, Terry, who is just getting up, fights Ace as well as the Queen. However, in the end, the King manages to run away, leaving the Queen. Back at their hideout, King admires the crown and shares a celebratory moment with Miss Thorpe, Paxton's assistant, who has stolen the rest of his art collection. As they prepare to flee, the Queen bursts in, enraged by the King's betrayal. The two argue, and their heated argument inadvertently leads Batman to the hideout. Outside, Batman captures Miss Thorpe, while inside, King and Queen continue to fight. King subdues her, only to face Batman, who questions his sanity. Finally, though, the King, Queen and Ace are arrested in the aftermath. Thus, this is the very last appearance of the Royal Flush Gang. The episode ends with a feeling of filial loyalty when at the police station, Jack is bailed by Melanie, bails him out. Touched, he accepts her offer to work as a dishwasher at her restaurant. Episode 2, Untouchable. This episode begins at a Gotham research facility where the guards are startled when a man descends from the sky, seemingly floating. Without hesitation, they open fire, but the bullets bounce harmlessly off him. With a mere gesture, he sends the guards flying. Unfazed, he drifts through an electrical field, his path unwavering. When he accidentally triggers a security door, it bends as soon as it touches the shimmering aura around him. Just as he reaches the isotope lab, Batman arrives. The Dark Knight acts quickly, but even the Batarang ricochets harmlessly off the man's force field. Batman moves in to physically stop him, but the mysterious figure effortlessly throws him into a wall. Unbothered by the confrontation, the intruder dips his hand into a vat of liquid hot enough to incinerate anything except him. Unharmed, he flies out of the room, leaving Batman in pursuit. As the chase spills into the streets, the intruder, now dubbed the Repeller, knocks over a billboard, forcing Batman to save civilians instead of continuing his pursuit. Back in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne explains that the Repeller stole the only sample of beta sterilium, a volatile isotope. Bruce and Terry head to Wayne Powers Medical Research, where Dr. Suzuki introduces them to a revolutionary device, ISO field generator rings. These rings create a protective aura that repels all matter, allowing people with weakened immune systems to live safely in an uncontaminated environment. You will be shocked to know that this is a real genetic condition known as primary immunodeficiency, making patients extremely assailable to viral and bacterial infections. A young woman named Irene, wearing one of these rings, shyly introduces herself to Terry, who is baffled that she has never seen the outside world. As Bruce inspects the ISO ring technology, Dr. Blades, another researcher, storms in, forbidding Bruce from accessing the data. Bruce's casual mention of adapting the ISO rings into a weapons system enrages Blades, who vehemently opposes any militarization of his work. That night, the Repeller reappears, this time at Gotham Steel plus Ore. After emerging from molten steel, he delivers the stolen beta sterilium to a group of criminals. They're preparing for another heist, stealing gamma sterilium. Meanwhile, Terry's mind drifts back to Irene. Later, he gets a call from her. She's escaped the facility and is lost in the city. He meets her at the beach, where she experiences the sound of waves for the first time, as sound is the only thing that can get through the ring. However, their moment is cut short when Irene realizes her ISO rings are running out of power. Rushing her back to the facility, they are caught by Dr. Blades, who reprimands Irene and bans Terry from returning. Back at the Batcave, Bruce pieces together a dangerous truth. If combined, alpha, beta and gamma sterilium create a devastating explosive. The best source for gamma sterilium is Bloodhaven's nuclear facility, and at that nuclear plant, Batman confronts the Repeller. The ensuing fight results in the Repeller believing Batman is dead but the truth is, Batman manages to escape. Meanwhile, Irene, grounded at the lab, notices a bubble suit in her room. She sneaks out to warn Terry, but is ambushed by the Repeller, who unmasks himself as Dr. Suzuki. He reveals his greed-driven plan to weaponize the ISO rings. Blades tries to intervene, but is thrown aside. However, Batman arrives just in time, and a fierce battle ensues. Remembering Irene's words that only sound can penetrate the gravitational field, Batman activates the turbines in the hangar. The deafening noise overwhelms Suzuki, whose field makes it impossible for him to cover his ears. To escape the agony, he switches off the suit and almost dies. In the aftermath, Blades allows Irene to leave the facility. Terry is happy for her, but is taken aback when Irene introduces Larry, her actual love interest. Smiling, Terry realizes she's found her own path outside.
Feels like a tickle now.
Episode 3, Inkling. The episode opens within the Shimano Space Center, where a small team prepares for a critical satellite launch. Winchell, the company owner, is anxious as the satellite is worth $1 billion. Outside, a shape-shifting figure, Inque, emerges from the ground and begins sabotaging the rocket. Meanwhile, Batman, patrolling Gotham, notices the disturbance and investigates. He quickly confronts Inque, attempting to trap her with liquid carbon dioxide. However, she vibrates violently, shattering the ice and attacking him. Batman, prepared, activates an electrical field on his suit to repel her, but she still manages to topple the rocket. It crashes into a petroleum truck, causing a massive explosion. Later on, Terry meets Max, asking her to dig up information on Winchell's competitors. Max suggests consulting Bruce Wayne, but Terry refuses. This is the 5th and the very last episode in the entire series where Bruce is decidedly absent. He feels responsible, unwilling to put Bruce in danger again after their previous battles with Inque. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Winchell talking on the phone, calling the project a loss, until Inque appears. She points out that with his insurance payout, he'll make a profit. She hands him a card, expecting her cut of the money. Winchell, however, has other plans. He pulls out a gun and shoots her with a particle destabilizer, gravely injuring her and forcing her to make a hasty, desperate escape. Elsewhere, Deanna Clay, a woman drowning in debt, negotiates with a repo man to save her car, only to find herself deeper in financial trouble. As she returns to her apartment, Inque sneaks inside. Deanna is shocked when Inque reveals herself to be her mother. Inque explains that she left Deanna behind when the police were after her, ensuring she was provided for through her criminal activities. Now, seriously wounded, Inque needs Deanna's help to obtain chemicals for a mutagen to heal herself. Initially hesitant, Deanna agrees when Inque promises more money to cover her financial woes. The scene shifts again to Terry, who is now skeptical that Winchell is hiding something, sneaks into his office. Finding traces of Inque's residue, he confronts Winchell, but the businessman fights back, unleashing his security team. Batman disables the guards and corners Winchell, dangling him from the side of the building. Winchell, terrified, gives up the account numbers where he transferred Inque's payment. Batman, knowing Inque is wounded, stakes out a mutagenesis lab while Max tracks the financial transfers to Deanna's account. Batman heads to Deanna's apartment where he is almost successful in getting Inque, but Deanna intervenes, injecting her mother with the mutagen. Despite his efforts, she overpowers him. As an audience, you can realize that Terry's consistency of never beating Inque on his own stays true throughout the series. Even here, when Inque is just convalescing, just as she's about to finish him off, her body begins to dissolve unexpectedly. Deanna, watching coldly, reveals she spiked the mutagen with a solvent. With Inque's account numbers in hand, Deanna no longer needs her mother. As Inque disintegrates, she begs Deanna for an explanation, to which Deanna responds that all her mother ever gave her was money, so she now chooses money over motherly affection and trust. Sometime later, Deanna enjoys her new wealth, lounging by the pool of her luxurious mansion. Batman warns her that the police will eventually catch up to her and that Inque's remains were never found. Unbothered, Deanna dismisses the idea that Inque could still be alive. Yet, as Batman leaves, the shadows around her shift ominously, and one of them forms into a vengeful eye, suggesting Inque's story is far from over.
This is your fault, Richie.
Episode 4, Big Time. This episode begins with a Wayne Powers truck transporting experimental Cerastone, suddenly followed by a much larger vehicle. The driver of the larger truck makes a joke and then reveals a grappling gun that pulls the smaller vehicle in. A thug named Karos, using a cutting laser, breaks into the truck and tosses the guards out. As the chaos unfolds, Batman arrives to handle the thugs. During the fight, a Cerastone canister cracks open, forcing everyone to retreat. Later, Terry McGinnis calls Bruce Wayne to discuss the incident. He learns that Cerastone is an experimental hormone designed to accelerate plant growth, and it seems a rival company, Agrichem, is after it. Leading the attack is Karos, a mercenary working for them. Terry's conversation is interrupted when he overhears his girlfriend Dana dealing with an overly persistent man. Stepping in, Terry is surprised to find the man is Charlie Big Time Bigelow, an old friend from his troubled past. Though happy to reconnect, Terry notices Dana is uneasy, clearly remembering Charlie well. As they catch up, Charlie tells Terry he has a big job lined up and invites him to join. Terry, now working under Bruce's guidance as Batman, declines, urging Charlie to grow up. Feeling sidelined, Charlie brushes it off, claiming he's just waiting for his break. Unsure of what to do, Terry asks Bruce for advice. Bruce is initially wary of Terry's involvement, but Terry insists on keeping an eye on his friend. Reluctantly, Bruce agrees. Charlie is thrilled when Terry later offers him a job, but his excitement is short-lived. At Agrichem, where Charlie now works, executive Richard Armacost doubts his abilities. Charlie soon finds himself in hot water when he's caught by a security guard, Captain Rubens, while fiddling with a computer terminal. Thinking quickly, Charlie manipulates the situation, tricking the guard into helping him. Later, using the guard's palm print, Charlie provides Karos with a glove that will bypass security. The scene shifts to the Batcave. Terry is upset to discover Bruce looking into Charlie's criminal past. He learns that Charlie had been in prison, serving time with Armacost, and begins to realize that his friend has been using him all along. The next day, when Charlie tries to assert himself in front of Karos, the thug mocks him much to Charlie's frustration. Charlie demands respect from Armacost, who dismisses him. Later on, Terry confronts Charlie, revealing he knows about the heist. Charlie defends his actions, claiming he offered Terry a chance to be part of it. Terry, disappointed, refuses to let him go through with it, but Charlie insists it's too late to back out. That night, the heist proceeds at a Wayne Powers warehouse. Using the stolen glove, Charlie lets Karos and his gang inside. When Batman shows up, a shootout breaks out. Amid the chaos, a grenade from Karos knocks over a Cerastone canister. Desperate, Charlie tries to stop it from spilling, but it bursts open, drenching him in the chemical. While the thugs flee, Charlie manages to grab onto their getaway truck. In an alley, Karos angrily demands 40,000 credits from Charlie for the botched job. Initially, Charlie brushes it off, confident Armacost will cover him, but as Karos leaves, Charlie's body begins to swell unnaturally, a sign that something is horribly wrong. The next day, he begs Terry for help, desperate for money to pay off Karos. Terry refuses, urging him to turn himself in. Panicked, Charlie flees, his body racked with pain. That night, Charlie's exposure to Cerastone transforms him into a hulking creature. Now calling himself Big Time, he storms Agrichem, blaming Armacost for his monstrous form. Batman intervenes, but Big Time's new strength proves too much for him to handle. Despite Terry's attempts to save him, Big Time refuses help, forcing Batman to knock him out. The episode ends with Terry watching a newscast about Big Time's arrest. Though Dana offers comfort, Terry is left feeling heartbroken, unsure if he could have done more to help his old friend. Episode 5, Out of the Past. The episode opens with Terry coercing Bruce out to celebrate his birthday, including a night at the theatre to watch a showing of The Legend of Batman, a musical parody that has captivated the public with sold-out shows. While Terry enjoys it, Bruce finds it to be a mockery of his legacy and leaves midway, too frustrated to stay. Back in the Batcave, Bruce reflects on old photographs of the women from his past. His thoughts are interrupted when one of them, Talia, appears in person. She looks as young and teases him for not having her photo in his collection. With her, she's brought a meal, a memory of a dinner they once shared in Milan. But Bruce, older now and more worn, declines and asks why she's really there. Talia reveals she's been using her father Ra's al Ghul's last Lazarus pit and offers Bruce a chance to use it as well, to become young again. When Terry returns, he is introduced to Talia and shows he knows all about her and Raz from Bruce's files. He is told about the life-changing boon Talia is offering. Later, the next day in Hamilton High, Terry confides in his friend Max about Talia's offer. While Terry doesn't think Bruce would go through with it, he can't ignore the temptation he saw in Bruce's eyes. Max wonders what it would mean for Terry's role as Batman, and Terry realizes Bruce's regaining his youth could put his own future as Gotham's protector in jeopardy. The scene shifts to Bruce, on the way to Talia's hotel. However, his tire flattens, and he is forced to pull over. But as he struggles to change it, a group of muggers attack him. Though he fights back, he's too weak to stop one of them from pushing a woman into the street. Helpless, Bruce tries to save her but falls, and they both are nearly hit by a truck. At the last moment, Terry arrives as Batman and rescues them. Bruce, shaken by the experience, feels his age more than ever. The theme is clear here as it tackled issues such as aging, legacy, and the passage of time, reflecting Bruce Wayne's legacy as the original Batman and Terry's role in continuing that legacy. Later, Bruce visits Talia at her hotel, unsure of why he even came. She reminds him of all he sacrificed, telling him no one deserves a second chance at life more than he does, and that she wants a second chance with him. She suggests merging their companies to help others globally. With some reluctance, Bruce agrees, and Terry joins them as they fly to her estate in New Cuba. Despite his doubts about using the Lazarus Pit, Bruce undergoes the treatment. Afterward, he looks younger than his age, but the process makes him briefly lose control, nearly attacking Terry. Talia reassures Terry that the process has improved since the past, though Terry remains uneasy. As Bruce regains his strength, he begins to feel powerful again, but realizes he's no better than Raz by cheating nature. He tells Talia's servant Carter that they're leaving, only to learn they are prisoners. Bruce and Terry fight their way out together, but when Bruce hears Raz's voice in Talia's room, he confronts her. Ra's al Ghul, speaking through Talia, reveals that he transferred his consciousness into her body to survive. His plan all along was to use Bruce's rejuvenated body as a vessel for his mind. As Raz tries to complete the transfer, Terry, now in the Batsuit, interrupts, and they fight. Raz is electrocuted during the struggle, starting a fire. Bruce and Terry escape, but Raz stays behind, determined to save his equipment, only to be consumed by the flames. This marked the final appearance of Raz and his daughter, since he was in her mind in this universe. In the aftermath, Bruce's body will return to its aged state soon, but he's at peace with it. However, ghosts from the past linger heavily in the air, and when he gazes at an old photo of Talia and him in a restaurant in Milan. Episode 6, Speak No Evil. The episode opens with Terry walking with Dana, Max and Howard toward the library. While there, Terry froze as he heard a scream echoing from the distance. While Howard rambles, Max, sensing Terry's restlessness, creates a distraction that enables Terry to leave alone. Moments later, Batman swooped into a panicked crowd. Their fear pointed him toward the source, an alone and distressed gorilla wandering through the streets. Batman approached cautiously, speaking softly to calm the creature, but the gorilla, growing agitated, started to back away. Batman, sensing danger, made the wrong move and the beast roared, hurling Batman off himself and sprinting toward the nearby train station. With impressive agility, the gorilla boarded the speeding train. Batman's grapple gun failed to catch up, and the train sped off into the night. As Batman watched it disappear, two men rushed over, calling out for Fingers. They explained that they were zoologists from Gotham University, and the gorilla was their test subject. They had been experimenting on him when he broke free. Batman's suspicions grew when they mentioned the creature had displayed abnormal intelligence. Batman informed Bruce about the incident. Bruce remained calm, noting that gorillas rarely attacked humans by going out of their way, but Terry was worried. Back then, Fingers had avoided the third rail and caught the only fast train out of the station. This was no ordinary animal's cognition. Thus, Batman decided to investigate further. At Gotham University's zoology lab, he uncovered a vial of methyl methyl glycose, a key ingredient in genetic splicing. When the zoologists returned, Batman confronted them. They confessed they had been using human DNA in an attempt to increase Finger's intelligence. Desperate for funding, they had crossed a line. Worse yet, the DNA was enhanced, meaning Fingers would only get smarter and possibly more dangerous. The next morning, Gotham's News reported the arrival of a white leopard cub at the zoo, a donation from renowned conservationist James Van Dyne. Watching this, Fingers became enraged and smashed a vid screen. That night, Batman tracked Fingers again, who evaded him by climbing a construction site. This is a remnant of King Kong parallels. Using stealth mode, Batman tried to approach, but the gorilla smelled him. Fingers disabled Batman with surprising precision. Instead of attacking, he asks why humans are so hellbent on attacking wildlife animals like gorillas. Batman insisted he was trying to help, but Fingers didn't trust him. However, he did reveal his motive for distrusting humans. Back when he was a baby in Africa, Van Dyne and poachers had captured his mother, separating them forever. Batman promised to arrest Van Dyne if Fingers would stay hidden. Fingers reluctantly agreed, but only for a night. When the dawn comes, their deal will be over. Batman made his way to the Wildlife Way Station, Van Dyne's so-called animal preserve. There, he uncovered proof that Van Dyne was truly a poacher. However, Van Dyne's cybernetic eye spotted Batman, and he was knocked out and trapped in a lion's cage. Just as the lions prepared to attack, Fingers arrived, saving Batman. The poachers opened fire on the gorilla, ignoring Batman, who quickly subdued them, but Van Dyne tried to flee. At that moment, even Commissioner Barabara appears to accuse Van Dyne of poacher activities. Fingers confronted Van Dyne, demanding to know where his mother was. Van Dyne shrugged it off as if it meant nothing important to him to know the whereabouts of his sales. Fingers began to throttle him, but Batman intervened, reminding him of not becoming like the humans he despises. With great effort, Fingers released Van Dyne, refusing to sink to his level. In the aftermath, Fingers returned to his homeland. As he left, Bruce reassured Terry that despite Fingers knowing their secret, he trusted him. Fingers, after all, had found his purpose. Episode 7, The Call, Part 1. The episode opens with chaos erupting as a commuter monorail loses control, barreling down the wrong track, destined for a fatal collision. The hero, Micron, races to the scene. With precision, he decouples the passenger cars and evacuates the engineer, ensuring their safety. But as he prepares to leap from the train, a force field traps him inside. The crash leaves him gravely wounded. This is in the metropolis. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, Batman pursues Inque, a shape-shifting criminal. She takes a civilian hostage, only for the civilian to spin at superhuman speed, scattering Inque in all directions. The hostage reveals himself to be an older but still powerful Superman. Terry McGinnis is awestruck by the legendary hero. Back at the Batcave, Superman greets Bruce Wayne, exchanging a rare moment of warmth between old friends. But Bruce is direct, asking why Superman is in Gotham. Superman explains that he wants to offer Terry a spot in the Justice League Unlimited, aka JLU, given Terry's accomplishments. Truthfully, JLU was there even when Bruce Wayne was Batman, but in DCAU, this is their debut. Bruce hesitates, wondering if Terry is meant to replace the injured Micron, but Superman insists Terry has earned his place. Ultimately, they leave the decision to Terry, who, surprised but honoured, agrees to visit the Watchtower. Terry's arrival at the Watchtower is met with suspicion. Big Barda and Warhawk are openly hostile, while Aquagirl and Cairo are cool but civil. Superman, however, reassures them of his decision. Once alone, Superman confides in Terry, revealing that he suspects one of the League members of sabotaging and attempting to kill the others. Micron's accident, he explains, could only have been orchestrated by someone inside the League. Reluctantly, Terry begins reviewing the files of his new teammates. Aquagirl, feeling bad for her earlier coldness, invites him for a swim, but Terry declines, overwhelmed with his new responsibilities. As he monitors the League members on the Watchtower's security system, he notices something alarming: the camera watching Aquagirl's tank malfunctions. Rushing down, he finds the tank overheating and Aquagirl trapped inside. Terry's attempts to break the door fail, and in desperation he grabs Big Barda's mega rod to blast it open. He rescues Aquagirl, but she's injured. Barda, furious, demands an explanation, but Aquagirl defends Terry, revealing the tank malfunctioned. Warhawk asks why Terry didn't call for backup, and Terry sheepishly admits it didn't cross his mind. Barda scolds him for acting alone. Later, while patrolling Metropolis, Terry confides in Bruce, feeling unwelcome in the League. As they talk, a distress call warns of a series of explosions threatening the city. Batman and the JLU go to help them, but soon, only Warhawk's communicator picks up another signal, making Batman suspicious. However, Warhawk dismisses Terry's concerns and asks him to stay put. Ignoring Warhawk's orders, Terry follows in the Batmobile as Warhawk intercepts the missile. Tragically, the missile explodes, killing Warhawk. Devastated, Terry retrieves Warhawk's helmet from the wreckage. The rest of the League arrives, and Barda, grief-stricken, accuses Batman of getting Warhawk killed. Superman intervenes, promising to uncover the truth. However, when Bruce reviews the Batmobile's footage, he unearths something shocking. The missile didn't explode on its own. It was triggered by a beam of heat vision. Even more shocking is the source, Superman. Terry is flabbergasted but determined to act. Bruce then opens a hidden vault and hands Terry a small shard of kryptonite. Though Terry hesitates, Bruce is firm. If Superman is the traitor, they must stop him, no matter the cost. With a heavy heart, Terry takes the kryptonite, knowing the battle ahead could change everything. The suspense and intrigue of this episode made it win the Annie Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement for Directing. Episode 8, The Call, Part 2. As the continuation of the last episode, this one opens with Batman, Terry McGinnis, presenting the Justice League Unlimited, with footage implicating Superman in some suspicious activity, though he leaves Superman out of the confrontation. Barda. It is interesting to note that Wonder Woman was not present in this version, and Barda fills that space, is not ready to believe it, and accuses Terry of falsifying evidence. The two argue, and Batman, frustrated with Barda's stubbornness, snaps at her. Enraged, Barda attacks him, but Cairo intervenes, trapping her with his Green Lantern ring before she can do serious damage. Aquagirl rushes to Batman's side to tend to him as Barda struggles and asks to be let go, to which Cairo refuses. Suddenly, Warhawk, presumed dead, steps out of the shadows looking more than alive. The League members explode with happiness to see Warhawk, and when asked how he survived, he explains that he received a distress signal Batman didn't. Growing skeptical, Warhawk remotely controlled an empty suit of armor to take the hit from the missile, leaving him unharmed. With newfound respect for Terry, Warhawk supports his concerns regarding Superman. The team decides to confront Superman and catches him meddling with Micron's stasis field. Superman becomes uptight and, before anyone can react, an alien eye pops out of his chest. The team realizes something is not right, and Superman attacks. Outmatched, Batman prepares to use kryptonite but hesitates due to his respect for the man Superman once was. In the chaos, Superman knocks the kryptonite from Batman's hand, but Micron, awakening from stasis, seizes hold of him. With Micron's help, Batman recovers the kryptonite, and Barda uses her Mega Rod to force Superman to retreat. After treating the injured, the team speculates that Superman has fled to the Fortress of Solitude. Terry knows Bruce is the only one who can help them find it, and they boom tube to the fortress. There, Superman awaits their arrival. A brief battle ensues, and Batman finally disables him with the kryptonite. Pulling off Superman's tunic, they find a starfish-like creature attached to his chest. Cairo and Barda, both seasoned galactic travelers, don't recognize the alien. Aquagirl connects telepathically with the creature and learns its story. Centuries ago, it was abducted by the Preserver and has been held captive ever since. Superman, after defeating the Preserver, housed the creatures in the fortress, unknowingly giving the starfish, Starro, the perfect opportunity to control him. Starro had been manipulating Superman for years, waiting until it had bred enough spawn to launch a full-scale invasion of Earth. As the team processes this revelation, they notice a pool teeming with more of Starro's spawn. Suddenly, several creatures leap from the pool, attaching themselves to the Leaguers. Batman remains the only one unaffected, his Batsuit's defenses protecting him. He flees in the Batmobile, but Starro, controlling Superman, gives chase. Starro offers Batman a chance to join them, but Batman refuses, luring Starro close enough to electrocute it with the Batmobile's defenses. This disrupts the creature's control, and Superman pulls Starro off his chest. Superman, now free, helps Batman rescue rescue the team and destroy the spawn. Batman narrowly saves Marina, aka Aquagirl, and Superman uses his heat vision to stun the remaining spawn. The League collects all the creatures, but Barda and Warhawk are ready to kill them. Superman refuses, believing it wasn't their fault they were taken from their home. Marina learns from Starro where they came from, and the team uses Barda's mother box to send the creatures back to their native ocean. Having earned the League's respect, Terry is offered a full-time spot, but he remains hesitant. They try to entice him that being part of the League would put him one step ahead of Bruce, who wasn't always a team player. But Terry is nothing, if not loyal, and says his mentor and might have more similarities than they think. Episode 9, Betrayal. The episode begins and an armoured truck rumbled down the road just outside Gotham City, only to screech to a halt as a large, overturned vehicle blocked its path. The guards were uneasy sensing the danger, but they stepped out to investigate anyway. Their instincts proved right. This was a trap. From the wreckage emerged Big Time, a hulking figure who used his immense strength to flip the armoured truck like it was nothing, ripping through the metal to get to the payload. But the guards managed to send out a distress signal. Batman was quick to pick it up, but Bruce Wayne hesitated. He warned Terry to stay out of it. Big Time wasn't just another criminal. He was Charlie, someone from Terry's past. The connection was too personal, but Terry ignored the warning. Even Gotham's police arrived at the situation, but their efforts to stop him were futile. He tossed them aside with ease. Just as Batman arrived on the scene, ready for a fight, a rogue police car barreled through, knocking him off course. Behind the wheel was Major, the mastermind of the heist, pleased with his and Big Time's teamwork. But Big Time wasn't happy. He was tired of being seen as just muscle, insisting he was more than that, just as he was, before the unfortunate transformation. Later on, Bruce believed Terry let Big Time escape because of their past friendship. Furious and frustrated, Terry stormed out. Meanwhile, Major was busy making deals, eager to expand his operations. Big Time overheard him describe him as just another thug. The words stung, deepening the rift between the two. Big Time wasn't just after power, he wanted respect and friends, and Major wasn't delivering. The next day, Terry confided in Max, his frustration evident. He blamed himself for what had happened to Charlie, for the mutation that turned his friend into Big Time. Max tried to reassure him, but before the conversation could go any further, several thugs arrived. Terry fought back, but in the chaos, he was grabbed and whisked away, leaving Max with his backpack and the Batsuit. Panicked, she called Bruce and for a moment considered wearing the suit herself, but Bruce firmly told her no. The scene shifts, and Terry soon finds himself face to face with Big Time, blindfold removed. Instead of threats, Big Time made him an offer. Join him. He showed Terry the life they once dreamed of, but Terry was still adamant about not going back to his former self. So, when Terry refused, Big Time's frustration boiled over. Major intervened, disgusted by Big Time's reckless move to involve Terry. As they argued, Terry seized the chance to escape, but Big Time caught up to him. However, he was unable to kill his old friend. Terry tried reasoning with him, offering to help find a cure. Big Time hesitated, torn between his old life and new reality. But when Terry mentioned Bruce Wayne's resources, Big Time seemed to soften. However, when the time came to go to the police, Big Time backed out, too afraid of what might happen. On the other hand, Major, meanwhile, packed up his operation, but his attempt to escape was foiled by Commissioner Barbara Gordon. Interestingly, this is the last appearance of Barbara in this series. As Major was apprehended, Terry found Big Time, only to learn everything was a manipulation. Big Time had used him to take down Major, securing his place at the top. He didn't want a cure. He wanted power. Angry and disillusioned, Terry faced Big Time, but before Charlie could kill Terry, Bruce arrived. His limo struck Big Time, allowing Terry to slip into his batsuit. The final battle spilled onto a bridge where Batman and Big Time clashed. Despite Big Time's brute force, Batman outsmarted him, but in the chaos, Big Time and Batman both find themselves on the wrong side of the bridge, dangling off it. While Batman tried to pull themselves over, Charlie held on to him, but eventually he fell down. It is a nice flashback of how Clayface fell over a bridge in the OG Batman series. As Terry stood on the bridge, Bruce offered a few words of comfort. Terry, though, was already at pace with his mind. He'd finally let go of the guilt and his past with Charlie.
Is it? Silly me. Give the man his pizza.
Episode 10, The Curse of the Cobra, Part 1. This episode begins at the Nova Research Center. A truck pulls up to the gate. The guard stops the driver, instructing him to leave, but the driver insists he's delivering isotopes. With a quick excuse, he's allowed in. Once inside, the driver releases several Cobra agents. They move fast, infiltrating the building to steal an R-12 thermal bomb. As they try to load it into their truck, Batman arrives, disrupting their plan. The goons fall quickly, but the truck driver, armed with an electrified Sanjiagan, puts up a brutal fight. Despite Batman's efforts, he's overpowered, allowing the Cobra group to escape. Back in the Batcave, Terry McGinnis reflects on his failure. Bruce Wayne, his mentor, acknowledges the setback, but suggests Terry needs help from an old friend. He hands Terry an address with simple instructions. Ask for Kairi Tanaga. The last time she was seen as a young woman was in the episode Day of Samurai in the OG Batman series. Terry visits Kairi, who seems like an ordinary fish merchant. She offers him fish, but when Terry mentions Bruce's name, she leads asks him to follow her, revealing a dojo. Before long, Terry is attacked by two men wielding bow staffs. They swiftly overpower him, stopping only when Kairi intervenes. She assesses Terry's fighting style, identifying his weakness. Our teen hero habitually leaves himself open on the left. Kairi agrees to train him, but only if he promises to follow her guidance completely. Terry dives into the training under Kairi's instructions. His friend Max teases him, watching in amusement as he chokes down the vile concoction of eel juice. During another lesson, Kairi has Terry balance a chair on his head to improve his coordination. However, she makes him fall by throwing a fish at him to test his balance. Later on, Terry notices a fellow student, Xander, being escorted away by bodyguards. As Bruce checks in on Terry's progress, he admits his doubts, but before the conversation can continue, a man frantically runs into Terry on the street. The man, Dr. Padu Banjari, is being pursued by Cobra agents. Terry tries to help, but the agents successfully catch up and steal a vial from the man. Terry informs Bruce, who looks into the situation. He finds out that Dr. Banjari, a paleontologist at the Gotham Natural History Museum, was studying dinosaur DNA. Terry returns to the dojo, struggling once more in training. During a break, he encounters Xander again. They strike up a conversation, and Terry suggests sneaking out for pizza. Xander, who has never eaten pizza or experienced normal social activities, agrees. They visit Cheesy Dan's, where Xander is fascinated by the arcade games. Max joins them, and after a friendly VR game, they settle down to eat. Before they can enjoy their pizza, a Joker's gang arrives, stealing their food and mocking Xander. Despite Terry's efforts to calm him down, Xander's temper flares. He nearly kills J-Man, but his bodyguards arrive in time to pull him away. Terry resumes his training, but Kairi informs him that Xander has been removed from the dojo. Meanwhile, Cobra's plans advance. They expose their members to a mysterious gas, transforming them into reptilian creatures. Xander, overseeing the experiment, is pleased with the results, but has a personal matter to attend to. He arrives at Max's home, demanding that she come with him. When she refuses, he breaks in, taking her by force. Max manages to alert Terry, who quickly pursues Xander. Batman intercepts Xander's vehicle, but he is attacked by an electrified nunchaku. A fierce fight ensues, and though Batman manages to disarm the driver, the man's immense strength sends Batman plummeting, barely saving himself. Episode 11, The Curse of the Cobra, Part 2. The episode begins, and after the last ordeal, Terry finds himself in the Batcave, groggy and aching. Bruce explained that he'd suffered a mild concussion and now has 4 cracked ribs. The injuries would cause him pain with every breath and movement, slowing him down. But Terry has no time for convalescence, as Max is taken by Xander. Seeing this, Bruce wasted no time, heading out to speak with Kairi, hoping she could shed light on Xander's whereabouts. Kairi, her face drawn with guilt, shared what little she knew, just a phone number. She admitted that she'd failed to teach Xander the moral code of Bushido, something samurai warriors spend their lives reflecting on. It was clear the weight of Xander's choices weighed heavily on her. Later on, Bruce ran a check on the number. The results were alarming. Xander was hiding in a Cobra base. Despite his injuries, Terry didn't hesitate. Ignoring the stabbing pain in his ribs, he suited up and headed off to find Max. Meanwhile, Max woke up in an unfamiliar familiar, opulent bed, her head still fuzzy from sedation. She quickly noticed she wasn't wearing her clothes anymore. Someone had dressed her in something else. 2 women entered, claiming they were her servants and explaining that her original clothes had been too damaged. The master wanted to see her. Max refused, instinctively defensive. She fought her way out of the room, taking down the 2 women, but she soon realized she was trapped in a labyrinthine base. As she continued her search for an exit, a monstrous, dinosaur-like mutant confronted her, overpowering her with ease. It dragged her to Xander. There, Xander greeted her warmly, unnervingly happy to see her. Max demanded to know what he wanted. Xander explained that he was no ordinary man. His DNA had been artificially synthesized. He was grown in a lab, raised on nutrients, and taught only military strategy and combat. He had been created to be Cobra's perfect leader. This bears striking resemblance to Serpentor's backstory, an antagonist from G.I. Joe who was raised to be the leader of Cobra, but in all their plans, they had neglected one important thing, Xander's desire for a partner, and that's where she came in. Max rejected him immediately, but Xander was undeterred. Dr. Childs suggested having her killed, but Xander refused. He was fascinated by Max's defiance and her ability to think for herself. Meanwhile, Terry, now Batman, stealthily infiltrated the Cobra base despite the pain in his ribs. Unaware that he was being followed, he overheard Xander explaining his twisted vision to Max. Xander believed dinosaurs were the ultimate life forms and intended to combine their DNA with humans through splicing. The goal was to create a new species that could adapt and survive on a post-apocalyptic Earth, where a thermal bomb would raise the planet's temperature, too hot for humans but perfect for cold-blooded creatures. Max, horrified, argued that his plan would fail, but Xander smugly proved otherwise, showing her the splicing process. As Max continued to resist, Xander ordered her to be spliced. Just in time, Batman intervened, saving her from the procedure, but it was too late for an easy escape. The Cobra base was actually a flying ship, and it had already taken off. Max tried to tell Batman about Xander's plan, but they were soon ambushed. Batman fought off a Cobra goon, while a mysterious figure in black saved Max. The ship eventually reached its destination, a dormant volcano poised over a deep rift, the perfect place to detonate the thermal bomb. Before they could activate it, Batman arrived and engaged Xander, who had now spliced himself into a monstrous form. Xander, enraged and stronger than ever, tried to trigger the bomb but found it deactivated. Kyrie, cloaked in regret, but resolute, revealed herself as the one who had stopped the plan. Xander, furious, attacked. Kyrie fought back with Batman by her side, and together they forced Xander to destroy the ship's controls. As the ship began to fall apart, Xander was overwhelmed. In the chaos, Batman found Max in an escape pod, but as they tried to leave, Xander returned. Kyrie, feeling it was her responsibility to stop him, said, "Batman sacrificed herself in a last-ditch effort to stop her former student. The ship collided with the volcano, erupting into flames, but Batman and Max managed to escape." Later, at Kyrie's dojo, Bruce, Terry, and Max gathered by her pond and paid a solemn tribute to her ultimate sacrifice. Episode 12, Countdown. The episode begins at Gotham University, where the World Science Symposium is in full swing, with scientists from around the globe gathering to share their latest innovations. The announcer is about to welcome everyone, when suddenly, the video feed cuts out. Mad Stan, a known anarchist, hijacks the screen, launching into one of his signature tirades about technology making people weak. However, before the situation escalates further, Batman arrives to confront him. A brief but intense fight follows, with both seeming evenly matched. But in the end, Stan escapes, leaving Batman to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, at the train station, Ro and Zeta arrive in Gotham, hoping to track down Dr. Selig, who they believe is attending the symposium. Zeta's appearance matches the one on the Zeta project more than it did on Season 2, Episode 20. Ro is surprised when Zeta navigates the city with ease. When he mentions knowing Batman, Ro is skeptical, but Zeta's sincerity wins her over. However, their mission is put on hold as Agent Bennett and the NSA ambush them at the station. Zeta and Ro flee through the streets, with the NSA hot on their heels. Bennett stops a truck, trying to cut them off, but the driver turns out to be none other than Mad Stan. Seeing the government agents, Stan jumps to the conclusion that they're trampling on someone's rights and barrels his truck toward them. In the chaos, Zeta is hit with an electromagnetic device that shuts him down, but before the agents can capture him, Stan gets Zeta first and drives off to his hideout, a dilapidated houseboat. Stan introduces Zeta to his chihuahua, Boom Boom, but the dog's touch disrupts Zeta's hologram, revealing his robotic nature. Enraged, Stan assumes Zeta is a government assassin and grabs a bomb. Meanwhile, Ro, desperate to save Zeta, tries calling 911, convinced Batman will hear the call. The operator dismisses her, but Bruce Wayne, listening in on emergency channels, sends Terry to help. Just as Ro is cornered by a gang of jokers intent on mugging her, Batman swoops in and takes them down. After she explains Zeta's situation, Batman agrees to help her. The scene shifts to Mad Stan, driving recklessly through the city as he reactivates Zeta. Stan tells Zeta that Ro is hiding from the feds and gives him an address to find her. Oblivious to the bomb strapped to him, Zeta heads off to meet Ro. Batman and Ro trace Stan's hideout to his boat. Inside, they face off against his security system but manage to shut it down. They find Stan drugged and unconscious, with a disc on Boom Boom's collar explaining his plan. He sent Zeta on a mission with a bomb set to go off at midnight. Worse still, Stan has drugged himself to sleep for 24 hours, meaning they can't extract the bomb's location from him. He is one smart chap, isn't he? The mad sub given to him almost seems like an anachronism. However, this episode is his last appearance in the Batman Beyond series. With less than 30 minutes to find Zeta, Batman decides to enlist the help of Agent Bennett, but the agent is more concerned with capturing Zeta than preventing a potential catastrophe. Thus, as Batman leaves, another agent, Agent West, plants a tracer on the Batmobile, planning to follow him. Batman reaches out to Bruce, who suggests that Stan's anger might have been triggered by something in the news. Bruce combs through recent headlines and discovers that the Department of Health is raising the price of pet licenses, enough to set Stan off due to his attachment to Boom Boom. Later on, Batman tracks Zeta down at the Department of Health with mere minutes to spare. In a tense final moment, he tackles Zeta, grabs the bomb, and throws it out the window just before it detonates. With the immediate danger over, Batman and Zeta emerge, only to find the NSA surrounding the building. Zeta insists Batman leave, intending to face Bennett alone. As the agents sweep the building, they find only a lone teenager. Scanning him confirms he's human, so they leave him alone. The teen boy smiles, and it is revealed that they swapped places, Zeta leaving in the Batmobile and Terry staying behind. Later, Zeta destroys the tracking device the NSA planted. As they part ways, Ro thanks Batman before she and Zeta resume their journey. Episode 13, Unmasked. The episode begins at Hamilton, where students are busy cleaning up after a fundraiser. Terry arrives late, apologising quickly. Max, noticing his usual tardiness, teases him, and Terry simply tells her that it wasn't anything dramatic. He was just driving Bruce to an appointment. As they talk, Terry notices Dana is missing. Max explains that Dana left as she was fed up waiting for him again. Soon after, Nelson and his friends stroll by, mocking Terry for being late, and one of them jokes about how Batman made an appearance instead. Terry is taken aback, and Max admits she made a joke about how the school has more attendance of Batman than his. Terry is angry, but Max fails to see the issue here. She even warns him that his relationship with Dana is on the rocks, suggesting it might be easier if he just told her the truth about being Batman. She thinks it would solve many problems. Terry refuses outright, reminding her of the Diaz Kid incident, but Max is confused, never having heard of this story before. Terry then begins to recount the incident, which happened not long after he became Batman. In retrospect, we see a community picnic where a young boy named Miguel Diaz was playing with his Soldier Sam action figure. His mother, however, wanted his son to mingle more with kids his age and asked him to leave the toy. Miguel did as he was told, but soon wandered off to climb a nearby art sculpture, pretending to be on a mission as Soldier Sam. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Cobra agents were robbing a bank. Batman, waiting for them, intercepted the heist. As the Cobras fled, they fired a missile that missed Batman but hit the art sculpture, causing it to catch fire. Terry spotted Miguel trapped on the roof and without a second thought, abandoned the chase to save him. Miguel, terrified, mistook Batman for a villain from his toy world. Desperate, Terry pulled up his mask to show Miguel he was just a regular guy. This calmed Miguel enough to grab Terry's hand, and they escaped just before the building collapsed. Max, listening to the story, is unmoved. She points out that revealing his face saved Miguel and didn't seem to cause any problems. She urges Terry again to consider telling Dana the truth, but Terry insists she listens to the whole story before jumping to her conclusions. Again, in retrospect, after the rescue, Cobra's leader became suspicious about how Batman knew about the robbery. He used a mind scanner on one of his men, piecing together information. When the news broke about the rescue, Miguel was interviewed and mentioned that Batman was just a normal guy without his mask, inadvertently making himself a target. Simultaneously, while narrating the story, Max and Terry go to sit on a bench where Max inquires about what was Bruce's reaction to Miguel's on-TV announcement. Terry admits that Bruce was excessively angry at Terry's lack of vigilance. He told Terry that by revealing his face, he'd put Miguel in danger. Terry was tasked with watching over the boy, but while doing so, Miguel was kidnapped by Cobra agents. Terry tracked them down and interrupted their plan to use a mind scanner on Miguel to identify Batman's face. However, instead of revealing Terry's real face, the scanner showed the face of Miguel's hero, Soldier Sam, likely due to Miguel's fear. In the end, Terry saves Miguel, and though the boy doesn't seem to remember what Batman actually looked like, Terry learns a valuable lesson about keeping his identity secret. As Terry finishes the story, he is confident that nothing good could come out of revealing his true identity, even though Miguel does not get a closer look at his face. At that moment, a soccer ball bounces off to where Terry and Max were. A kid comes to get the ball, Miguel Diaz, and Terry hands the ball over to him. As Max and Terry walk away, Miguel smiles knowingly as he clearly remembers the true face of his savior. This episode took a long time to air, almost over 8 months. However, it was not aired as a finale episode. In fact, an episode titled Epilogue was released in the Justice League Unlimited show, which acted as a true finale to the Batman Beyond series. A show to remember. Phew, what an incredible journey it was. 3 seasons of absolute dramatics, heroism, and terrific animation. To be honest, the most standout aspect of Batman Beyond was its bold departure from the traditional Gotham. The setting in a futuristic Neo-Gotham, filled with advanced technology, gave the show a cyberpunk aesthetic that resonated with most fans. Personally, I think the show's ability to maintain Batman's noir elements while modernizing the world made the series more appealing throughout. Terry's more rebellious, youthful take on Batman appealed to younger audiences, while still retaining a level of emotional depth that long-time Batman fans appreciated. Furthermore, critics often noted the contrast between the sleek, high-tech cityscape and the show's dark, gritty undertones with much enthusiasm. There is also the balance of new rogues and old foes that gave the audience a gripping narrative that they decided to visit time and again, garnering the popularity that fueled the show for 3 seasons. Therefore, it can be said that Batman Beyond has endured as one of the more unique entries in the Batman animated canon. Its bold vision, combined with its respect for the Batman mythos, has kept it in high regard among both casual viewers and die-hard fans.